This week on the show, we're joined by Gavin McInnes of the Gavin McInnes Show, Fox News, Rebel Media, and Tacky Mag. Yeah, the man's got a lot of jobs. That's why we had to talk to him while he was running between one and the other on his bicycle. No, he wasn't wearing a helmet because helmets are for... I'll leave that to Gavin. But we did manage to squeeze in a wide-ranging interview where we hit topics as various as the Real Housewives, Justin Trudeau, David Cross, Hillary, Trump, immigration, and mindless leftists. Then Ashe Schow is back this week for some Ashe kicking. She's laid down a challenge to Miss Hillary Clinton, and she's also on a mission to destroy the wage gap myth once and for all. Fingers and I talk about the militarization of our police forces. They've got a whole bunch of new toys from the military in the past decade or so, which I'm sure they're going to put to nothing but good use because all they care about is protecting us, right? And did you know the Tennessee Valley Authority still exists? Yeah, they do. And they're armed. Great news, right? We also have to talk about Trump, of course, never Trump, Hillary, Bernie, and the Libertarian Party. Is Austin Peterson the one to carry the message forward? Does he have any chance of winning the nomination up for the Libertarian Party? And does the Libertarian Party stand a chance in hell of winning the election in November? Remember to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. You can listen on TuneIn, SoundCloud. You can find us on Facebook. And if you forget all of that, you can always find us at EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com. All right, enough already. On with the show.
I just got an email from Michael Moore.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You want to hear about it?
Sure. What does he got to say? And why is he emailing you?
I'm a very important person, Tracy Connors.
Oh, right.
You know, he's one of the move-on cats.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think he pulls a paycheck from them?
I would think.
You don't think he's just writing these emails out of the goodness of his heart?
Well, I'm sure. Look, there are true believers on the left, but most of them are looking for a paycheck just like anyone else, right?
Sure.
And I'm sure his latest movie didn't rake in a lot of cash. So, yeah, Michael Moore just wrote me an email for MoveOn.org. My most dangerous and subversive film. That's the subject. So, that sucks you in right there.
Absolutely. I'm riveted. What's next?
Dear fellow Move On member. I'm a Move On member, Tracy.
All right. Do you pay dues? Or are you just on the email list?
I'm just on the email list.
That qualifies you for membership?
Sure, why not? Well, apparently.
Lucky
because it
you.
says right here, dear fellow Move On member.
You're free riding.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I love Move On. You probably thought I was just going to talk about my movie, Where to Invade Next.
You probably thought I was just using this to plug my movie. By the way, here's the name of it, and you can watch it here, and here.
Which just came out on DVD. I thought it just came out in theaters like a cup of coffee ago. Didn't it?
Just his theater.
Just
it's
his
getting
theater.
A wide theatrical release only in what's the little town where he bought that theater?
Traverse City.
Traverse City, baby.
You'd know all about that if you watched Hugging More, if that exists. If that existed. But here he didn't he come out a few weeks ago during it feels like a few weeks ago, maybe it's a couple months ago now, the whole bathroom brouhaha down in North Carolina, and I remember him tweeting, I told my distributor to pull my movie out of all the theaters in North Carolina. It's like, way ahead of you, buddy.
The distributor's like, wait a minute, Michael, wasn't in any theaters to begin with. Good.
We showed down.
I don't want to educate those inbred idiots. They wouldn't appreciate my art. And also, shouldn't he be in Cannes right now? Isn't he a darling there? They're not showing his film there? I feel bad for Michael. Please continue.
Well, can he fly there? Maybe with the seatbelt extender? He can get on a plane?
I'm sure he buys 2 seats.
Oh, gosh. That's
He
embarrassing.
can probably fit in a first class seat.
Probably. But I'm getting to the point where I can't fit in it. And I'm only 270 pounds. And I stretched that seatbelt all the way out to the end.
Wow.
Before I look for a clip. So imagine what that guy goes through.
I assume he's got his own plane, or people send him planes to pick him up.
Move On probably sends him there.
That's true. Oh, shit.
Well, what's that?
For some reason, Siri thought I was talking to him.
Oh.
My Siri is yes, male, and identifies that way as a British male.
Oh, I've got the British female. Weird. Well,
lovely.
Michael Moore's going to be...
so pleasant to be like,
right?
Yes, how can I help you?
Well, Michael Moore's going to be honest with me. Mm-hmm. And, I already said all that. Where to Invade Next, which just came out on DVD this week. And I'll get to there in a minute. But really, the movie is about creating a more just society. And that's just what Move On members are all about, day in and day out.
Wait a minute. When he said more in there, did he spell it Moore?
No, he did not.
Oh, he didn't want
that would have been a delicious play on words. But no, it's More. He's going to get to that in a moment. But first, he wants to ask me, Tracy Connors, to donate $27 to Move On Civic Action. And he will send me a copy of his movie, Where to Invade Next.
Oh, this is an amazing scheme.
Right. This is fantastic. I mean, after all, I'm just skimming through this email. He made a bold stand outside of Trump Towers holding an anti-Islamophobia sign.
I remember that.
Yeah, in February, he called for Governor Rick Snyder of Michigan to be arrested for crimes committed against the people of Flint. Boy, he's really ballsy, isn't he?
Yes.
I mean, to fly to New York City and to hold a cardboard sign up outside of Trump Towers, that takes guts. It takes moxie.
Mm-hmm. And somebody else's money to pay for it. I'm certain.
How much do you think he got paid for that?
I don't know. I guarantee you Move On bought a ton of copies of his DVDs.
Oh, Gavin's calling.
Oh, lovely.
And here's Gavin.
Hello.
Hi, Gavin.
Hi, can you hear me okay? I'm on my bicycle.
I thought riding bikes was for fags.
Yeah, it's actually a sticky issue. It does feel kind of gay using bike lanes and stuff, but it's New York City, and I hate people. So it's either this or a packed train. But how about this? Going to the gym is for fags. So you're exercising in the most manly way possible, away from the gym.
I didn't think it was legal to ride a bike and talk on a cell phone in New York City.
You definitely can't do that with a car, but I don't care about rules. I've even killed people.
On a bicycle?
No, I used to work for the mob, and I would take people out as a young man to pay my college bills.
Yeah, that's how
You probably
expensive
shouldn't be
college is.
confessing to that.
That's all right. Nobody will hear this anyway. And you're not wearing a helmet, though, right? Because then we'd have to hang up on you. Okay, good.
Helmets are for retards. I was talking to this 23-year-old when he saw that I didn't have my helmet on. And he goes, "Aren't you scared?" And I go, "What are you talking about? If you have headphones on and no helmet, what if someone says, look behind you, there's a car?" I'm like, what cartoon world do you live in? Thomas the Tank Engine? Like, who are these people saying, "Look behind you, buddy"? It's like a weird little British kids show with claymation. Look behind you, buddy.
Yeah, you live in the
When
city.
you have headphones on.
Right, and you live in the city where Kitty Genovese got raped while, 40, 50 people stood by and didn't do anything? You really think somebody's going to be like, "Hey, buddy, there's a car coming"?
Yeah. In fact, one time a car almost did hit me, and I looked over and saw, are you getting a lot of wind resistance?
It's okay. We can live with it.
I looked over, and someone had pulled out their phone to record the accident.
Of course. We don't want to stop it. We just want to capture. Yeah.
their first priority is their Instagram account.
But be honest, you would watch that video on YouTube over and over and over again.
Yeah, that is true.
Huh.
That is true. And it's not like she could have helped me anyway. So
Right.
I guess why not?
Sure.
Now, you have kids, right, Gavin?
I do indeed. I'm pedaling quickly to be with them right now.
Do you and your wife get in arguments over whether the kids should be wearing helmets when they ride their bikes? Because I know I get into it with my wife about that.
Yeah, actually, we do. Funny you say that. And you know, we live in such a stupid, pussy helmet culture that if my kids are on their scooters, right, those little push-along things that you hold on to, you know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
a skateboard with a pole on it. One time my kids were going by with no helmet on, and some fucking dumb, like, secretary, hipster millennial goes, helmet, please. A stranger. At me and my kids. So, of course, I yelled 100 expletives about her trouble with her life. Of course, she's a spinster, too, that will never breed. Then she's a dog mommy, I'll bet you $1 million. With some giant, they always have a giant dog, these women. And they're cleaning up feces that could fill a salad bowl all day. But no, they're telling me to be more careful with my children. Although, I will say, I think with a bicycle, I don't know. It's hard to put my money where my mouth is and say no helmets on the bicycle. Although I do push that.
No, you're lucky. You're lucky nowadays. A woman like that, half the time will call Child Protective Services over stupid shit.
Yeah. Well, it's actually illegal in New York City for children under 14 to ride a bike without a helmet.
Oh, my God.
It's so insane. You know, in New York, the gun laws state that you can't have a sweat ball gun.
You can't have a what?
You know, like a paintball gun. You can't have a paintball gun. You can't have a BB gun. You can't have a scuba gun. I've been shot in the face point blank with a BB gun. It's very uncomfortable. That's about it.
But you can still buy gasoline, right?
Yes,
Anybody
you
can buy
still
gasoline.
What are you suggesting, a Molotov cocktail?
Right. Your 3-year-old could walk up to a gas tank and fill up a empty beer bottle and walk away and no one would notice.
Yeah, you know, we still have a murder a day here, so it doesn't seem to be working.
No, you mean people don't follow rules? It's really strange.
I know. Well, it's funny when you try to... New Yorkers are sort of like Europeans in that guns aren't even in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I went to Paris after the shooting. I just did an interview, actually, with Jesse Hughes from Eagles of Death Metal. Who were doing the show at the Bataclan. But I went there after the attack, and I said to even super right-wing guys, I said, if someone there was armed, this wouldn't have happened. And they hadn't thought of that.
Oh, jeez.
And it just sort of seemed Orwellian that even with the French right, they've had guns completely scrubbed from their mind. That's the way we are.
Yeah, I think there's some like rosy scenario kind of thing that happens with most people. And they say that in an emergency, 10% of people will take charge and know the right thing to do. Another 10% will say the wrong thing to do. And the middle 80% will just follow one of the other two groups blindly.
Well, Jesse's contention is that those numbers have changed, and now 95 have no idea what to do because they've had their instincts taken away. Mm-hmm. He goes, these people were there casing the joint all day. They were at the venue. I remember them. I helped identify them. This is Jesse talking now.
Yeah.
But, you know, some of them were, the women who helped organize it were wearing Muslim garb, and they were doing it because they knew they wouldn't get checked. Even the guys in Brussels, they had one leather glove on. Each had one leather glove on their head. These giant suitcases they couldn't lift, but wouldn't let anyone touch. And people didn't want to offend them because they looked Arab. So they let it alone. I mean, we saw this in Rotherham with a child prostitution ring, where the police were scared of being seen as racist. Did you know Jeffrey Dahmer? They were writing a book about him, and Jeffrey Dahmer said to the guy writing it, by the way, I was not racist. He goes, I only ate black people because I lived in a poor area, so that's who was around. But please, don't portray me as racist in this book.
Yeah. It's all right that I'm a cannibalistic serial killer, but please spare me the shame.
People would rather explode than be seen as Islamophobic, and people would rather be seen as a cannibal than a racist.
Oh, it's really unbelievable. And I keep waiting for somebody, and you might be the person that would have the balls to do this, because I come up with these ideas that I would never have the balls to do. But I don't know why a bunch of people aren't just, when they get pulled over by the cops, you know, it's the libertarian thing to do is just keep your mouth shut, hold up your thing through the window, don't deal. But I think the thing to do is just say, no, I'm an illegal, I don't have any papers, and not allowed to ask me shit, and just drive away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, the Somalians do that when they come over to Canada. They just flush their passports down the toilet, and all their documentation is gone. And it works. I mean, in Canada, what they do when you do that is they say, all right, well, now you're technically here illegally. We're going to have a trial and figure out what to do with you. Do you promise to come back on March 25th? And they sort of go, yeah. Now, hold on. Can't, no erases, cross your heart. Yeah. Wait, let me see your fingers. I don't want any crossed fingers. And, they just go home and you never see them again. Ridiculous.
And we wonder why. I mean, these people have already proved themselves to be dishonest, and then you're like, oh, okay, this time will be totally different.
I don't know where racists got such a bad name. I mean, Archie Bunker seems like a cool guy to hang out with.
Sure.
Does anyone want to hang out with Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes? Can you imagine going camping with Chris Hayes?
No. I mean, it would be entertaining as hell. Didn't you? I feel like you told some story about your brother was buddies with Justin Trudeau, and there was some camping story.
He doesn't like me telling that story, but he went camping because he's friends with Justin's brother, who is equally retarded. Justin Trudeau's brother has started a Kickstarter to replace all money in the world with digital currency. Now, this works great in Nigeria because they're at rock bottom, so you can only go up there. But like Japan, America, will all just pay for stuff with their cell phones. It's like a $70 trillion plan that will never happen. Anyway, Justin, he was camping. They're all camping together. They did this big, 5-day trip on a river, and they were starting a campfire. And Justin goes, should we be concerned about the carbon footprint this leaves behind? And my brother and Justin's brother just stared at each other with their mouths agog that this was a new low, even for Zoolander Justin Trudeau.
He's got really cool socks, Gavin.
He is. Barack Obama's just as bad. He's just a hunk that was elected because people think he's cool, which, God damn it. I blame women for all of this, by the way.
I'll take that.
Men like cool guys, but you don't hire like a sexy plumber or a hot accountant. You go, well, I'll just get the guy who's best for the job. So women are like, fuck it, I want a hot plumber.
Yeah.
And that's what Barack Obama is. He's a sexy plumber.
Right, but you wouldn't even categorize him as a cool guy. He's totally woman cool. And I don't even find him cool. I think he's gross because he's such a beta male. But,
well, I hate him with such vitriol, it's hard to see clearly. But technically, when you look up presidents, it's hard to deny that he's the giant air quotes coolest president we've ever had.
Well, that's only for the next couple months. And then when President Trump comes in, that's out the window.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
It's going to be amazing.
I keep saying he's calling him President Trump and everything, but secretly I'm holding back my emotions because if that actually happened, when Barack Obama was elected, I live in Williamsburg, hipster Brooklyn, people were on the streets screaming their heads off. It was like Muslims after 9/11, going bananas. There was guys like up light poles, up lamp posts, screaming. There's no parade or anything. Just yeah. And when Trump gets elected, I'm going to be the only one on my street doing that. Yay! Running up and down with balloons. We did it! Well, I did it! Yay!
No, you get to run through the streets yelling, fuck you, everyone.
Yeah, I bet you I'd get beat up. I remember being in Quebec in '94 after the referendum. It was tense speaking English on the street because the frogs were pissed they lost.
Well, a lot's changed since then. I don't think that anybody would dare hit you.
Maybe not.
What is that in the background? It sounds like a call to prayer.
That's the noisiest city in the world where I live. I'm moving to the suburbs next month. After a quarter century in the city, I'm going back to the burbs, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, I heard you were in the shit city that's right near my suburbs, Philadelphia, like a week ago. And that's
oh my God, place, that was a depressing town. You know, and I'm guilty of this too, I guess. I feel like with Detroit and Philly, they tried to deal with the homeless and the scumbags and the losers and the drunks and the criminals. And then at one point they just said, you know what, this is a wash. And just left.
Yeah.
And, you know, you should fight. I want to fight for my country, but I feel like New York is just, all right, losers, it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it. You know, de Blasio's sitting there blaming me for Puerto Rico, saying they're screwed because we've turned our back on people of color. That's why Puerto Rico's doing badly. You just think, I would say shit like that when I was 13. So we have a 13-year-old mayor, and I just think, okay, bye Detroit, bye Philly, bye New York. No, New York's obviously not going to become Detroit, but the vibe I got in Philly was just that people had given up. I mean, the bums were arrogant there.
Mm-hmm.
They were like San Francisco bums, where they come up and they look at what you're eating and maybe grab a fry.
Did you see any of the musical ones that have a whole drum kit or a saxophone or?
No, I did not see one ambitious one with a thing. A lot of them were passed out with a cup, expecting me to give them money while they slept.
Mm.
I don't know how.
I did see one group of bums with a ghetto blaster, just sitting down. They'd taken over a street corner and they're just having a party, like pissing and shitting and puking and just hanging out.
They probably have a permit to do that. That's how the city deals with it. The homeless can buy a permit to make noise on one certain block.
No way.
I'm not joking.
Well, you must be one of these people who lives in Philly and never goes to Philly.
Yeah. I grew up in the suburbs. There are reasons to go to the city, and it's occasional, and it's usually some social event. But otherwise, no. I'm not bothering. It's a hellhole run by Democrat morons into the ground.
It's such a beautiful city with such a rich history, and then you look at it, and it's just like someone left.
Yeah.
It's abandoned.
All the adults moved out. Well, they instituted a city wage tax, which even New York doesn't have. So if you work within the city limits, you have to pay an additional, I think it's 6% tax on your income. And they wonder, Comcast is the only one that can afford to be there.
Yeah. I mean, we saw this in Quebec with separatism. They don't get the basic libertarian truth, which is when you tax something, you get less of it.
Mm-hmm. But then until they do, because they're trying to institute the soda tax, and they're saying, it's to punish fat people. Because when the price goes up, they won't drink it as much. It's like, okay, sure, that'll work. And they're already talking about smuggling it in because we know that's what Philly would do.
Right. Well, it also comes down to this fear of bigotry, mm-hmm. where they go, all right, we noticed a problem here, and obesity is an issue. And then they go, it's mostly Puerto Ricans and blacks here in the city, and a lot of them are on welfare. That's depressing. When we do this campaign, let's make it a middle-class white family. So you're looking at the ad or the billboard, and you see this upper middle-class wealthy family, and you think, really? This is the obesity epidemic? They don't even look fat.
Well, it's the same thing with the guns, right? The gun commercials.
Yes. Well, there was one on during the Olympics, and they had this little angel of a boy, and he goes into his closet, and he grabs his parents' closet, he's playing hide and seek, and he grabs a handgun, and then the commercial ends abruptly, and you're supposed to assume he blew his head off. But you go, first of all, their home was insane. Mm-hmm. The home they were in, I would say, would be roughly $8 million if it was near New York City. If you lived there, you'd probably stumble on a room you hadn't seen before. It must have been a 50-room house. And the kids who are shooting each other, first of all, they pull in all these teen numbers. They get it higher. But the little kids who shoot themselves are at gangbangers' house. It's some single mom who's Mexican and has a gangbanger boyfriend over who leaves his gun lying around. But no, we don't want to say that. We don't want to offend people. So we make this fake universe where rich white people are blowing kids' heads off. Even the New York Times did that. They had a whole article about gun violence and guns going off. Meanwhile, it's like half a dozen kids. And the picture they use for the front is some Midwestern dad showing his son how to use a rifle. Like the rarest possible situation when it comes to gun violence. Oh, it's annoying. I don't know if you watch TV, but I turned on the television last night and was just surfing through the channels. It was just endless women running law firms and doing brain surgery.
Yes.
Women in blacks doing jobs that white men normally do. And
so
like, have you seen The Good Wife?
Uh-huh. Every single
Isn't that
episode.
like an entire law firm that's all women?
No, it was a hostile takeover of the women at the very end.
What kind of law firm is all women? If you walk into a law firm and it's all women, you go, what's going on here? Is this the island of Lesbos?
Or is it the NARAL staff attorneys?
Or maybe
also
maybe divorce attorneys. I
right,
could see
Moonlight for Planned Parenthood. Actually, that show of all of the scripted television dramas that I watch is the most politically fair.
Really?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, one of the characters is married to a Tea Party guy, and he's what was his job? He was a ballistics expert, and she had to part ways with her judgy liberal friends when they decided they couldn't be friends with her anymore if she married him, and she was like, "Fuck you guys."
Wait, is she the blonde?
She's Allison. What's her name? Christine Baranski. Yeah.
Okay, she's blonde. Okay, that's not what I was thinking of, but that one is insane too. That's just Hillary Clinton porn. I really feel like women are ruling the programming of television.
Well,
they're just putting their magical fairyland above everything else. So you're watching it, you go, that's not the way life is. Two black neurosurgeons arguing on the best treatment for this stupid white guy. They really are. And the problem with all this lying is it just sort of it's anti-meritocracy. They go, well, white people have been taking advantage of it for a while. It's our turn. Like, no, I don't think so. Like, the fact that we had white male presidents all the time was not only because they represented the majority of the population, but because they're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Pretty good presidents.
Yeah.
You know? Well,
but it's because we weren't represented in the media enough. You know, that's the other argument. We need people to look up to. That's why you see black neurosurgeon women on television now.
And the funny thing about that is they just take it as a given that role models are what makes these people successful. But you talk to someone, and they don't go, yeah, I got into neurosurgery because I saw someone who looked like me on TV doing neurosurgery. No, I was born smart. I was slaying in math and science. I knew it would be lucrative, so I focused on neurosurgery because that was where I thrived. I've been fucking watching TV. If you are so bereft of... What are you honking at? He's already blocked it. What's he going to do? Drive through another car? In New York, they don't honk to say move. They just honk to go, this sucks. So
yeah, because that helps.
Yeah, a guy blocks the box, which they always do here because New Yorkers don't know how to drive. And a whole block of people start honking at him, but he can't go any farther. We're already screwed. But yeah, this whole idea of we need role models, and you just end up making this never land that doesn't relate to the real world and just looks stupid, and then people stop watching.
Well,
like
and the role
Daily
models.
Show.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Can we talk about your time on The Daily Show? Because that was wildly entertaining.
I mean, this woman hired Trevor Noah because she liked the idea of a South African. It seems very global, one world. She didn't base it on his experience or how funny he was. He just fit the fucking stereotype of perfect global human being. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then they hire a bunch of other people just based on their race and gender who don't know what they're doing. And guess what you're left with? A terrible show that isn't remotely funny, and it's just consistently wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They'll sit there, they'll come up with a facile analogy, and then laugh at everyone for being so stupid. Like they had this one on transphobia, and they made fun of people who were scared of the trans people. And you're watching going, I'm not fucking scared of them, dude. You're the one who made it a phobia. I just think they're mentally damaged. It's bizarre.
But so you went in there, you walked into the wood chipper, and everybody's yelling like, don't do that. It's a wood chipper. And you're like, yeah, I know. I know exactly what's going to happen. I just want to see how this all works.
I want to see what the blades are like. I want to see the intricate, workings of the wood chipper. And I did. And what I learned was that we're going to have to abandon the wood chipper now at some point. But what I learned was they don't just take your things out of context. They just lie. Mm-hmm. Like, all their research about women getting paid less is wrong. The woman said they don't get paid if they lose, which is a lie. They pretended that women and men are paid the same way in soccer, which they're not. They ignored the part where women negotiated this deal through the union. And the whole women's soccer mistake often happens with women, actually. We get this with the pay gap. Women had an awesome year in 2015. They had the World Cup. So, yeah, they got tons of eyeballs and generated tons of money. That was just 1 year, ladies. If you look at America's soccer history, and especially the world soccer history, you see women getting paid actually a lot more than the money they bring in, disproportionately more. But, the Daily Show can't use Google, so they make up all those facts, don't fact check, and then when I'm getting bored and I can't name soccer names, I make up a bunch of fake ones like Junebug, and then their full pitch with my thing is, this dummy thinks we're going to fall for a name like Junebug? And the craziest part is they did. I had to tell them that Junebug was a made-up name. Before that, the guy Hassan Minhaj goes, oh, that's a deep cut. I didn't know those names. Yeah, because they're made up. Unbelievable.
And how many people do they have behind the scenes fluffing him, pretty much?
I mean, when you think of the whole thing, it must have been like 50 people. It took 50 people and 3 weeks of work to frame one conservative who, just looked it up a few days before and then sat down in a chair for an hour and a half.
And how much did an hour and a half turn into? What was it, like a minute and a half, maybe?
Oh, no, maybe 20 seconds.
Ugh.
And then editing in all these reactions where his face is sort of going, okay, whatever, dummy.
Do you think they'll ever have you back now that you've let the cat out of the bag?
No, definitely not. I mean, I kind of regret not filming it.
Yeah.
But it would have been an hour and a half you'd have to sit through. And I don't know, I'm a writer. So I did record it with my brain. And I wrote it down. I'm titling over the bridge here, so you're going to get some panting.
I can't tell if that's you yelling at somebody or if that's just a random stranger.
That is a unemployed Puerto Rican on welfare selling Snapple.
Oh, trying to get some, right? Yeah, I can't remember what you were talking about. Some fight that you had with your wife about Katrina this morning on your show, and I can't remember what it was.
So she said, those poor people, they're really screwed. It's horrible. They were, thwarted by nature. And I said, but they knew it was coming. And she goes, some people can't afford to leave. And I go, get a shopping cart, put some camping stuff in it, blankets, photo albums, whatever, and walk.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 5 miles away, you would have been fine. Can't walk 5 miles?
To save your life. No, and it reminded me that I was down in New Orleans for a month, about a year ago, and at one point I was hanging out with a bunch of liberals, and one of them started bitching about Katrina because the Weather Channel had shown some commercial promo for one of their superstorm things, and they didn't talk about Katrina. So he was very offended. And his take was like, oh, nobody cares about us. Nobody gave a shit. And I was just like, hold on, dude. Do you know how much money was spent to bail you guys out because you stood here like idiots? And he goes, hey, that's not fair. Like, nobody told everybody where to go. And I said,
Yeah.
what do you mean nobody told you where to go? Why do you need to be told where to go? Just not here. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you
just
can't expect
walk.
people to just do that. What do you mean? Are these functioning adults that put on pants and leave the house? They get the concept of don't stay here or you're going to die, right? No, apparently they don't.
Well, someone was saying to me, a lot of them are so obese they can't walk. And I'm like, well, how'd they get so obese?
Right.
And then you go, okay, if you're stuck in Katrina because you're too fat, I should go up to you and go, look how fucking fat you are. You got stuck here in a storm. You need to lose some weight. But I remember seeing a video during all that, and it was about 10 black people screaming at the camera. They're going, help us, help us, help us. And I just thought, you'd never see a Scottish person doing that.
Right.
They'd be too ashamed. Uh-oh. Loud train coming. That's the JMC. Oh, we're coming both ways now. I guess that's where JC got his name. JC train. They went together. Brooklyn to Manhattan. From the East Village to Williamsburg. Junkie section. Once we get over the hump here, it's all downhill from there, literally.
Excellent.
Yeah, but it is frustrating. And you know, I'm a Knight of Columbus, and the whole thing with them is charity, and we're always giving to the sisters, and I mean nuns, but it does end up going mostly to sisters. And I'm like, I get that charity is a big part of our ethos here, our credo, but sometimes charity is really bad for you. And you see this with American Indians. Like, my brother-in-law got a bunch of money when he turned 18 from the tribe. My wife's Indian. And he once said to me, that money was the worst thing that ever happened to him. Because he got it during his formative years, you know, when he was forming. And he didn't have to work for a long time. I mean, I don't really have to work now, but what am I supposed to do? Walk around in a bathrobe all day, micromanaging cupboards with my wife? You don't get a blowjob if you're wearing a bathrobe. You need a suit on. And you have to have been gone for 8 hours. Or in the case of my wife, 8 years.
And you have to watch The Housewives, right? And there are other things you have to do. I've heard you go through this list.
I'm actually going through a pretty rough time, actually, these days. I mean, the other night, I put away all of the dishes. I watched Real Housewives. And I took the kids for a long walk so she could relax. You know how late I got? 0. I was
Did she get mad at you? Did she get
Yeah,
mad at you for
she gets mad all
talking
the
about
time.
this stuff? Though, does she know how open you are about this?
She never listens to anything I do or reads anything I write. It stresses her out. She doesn't even read my book.
Wow.
That's why I talk so freely.
Yeah, does that bother you, or are you cool with that?
It used to bother me, but then I thought, there's just too much stuff there. Like, I was quoted about 4 hours of shit today, 2 interviews, and then wrote this 1,800-word article. She'd have to be kind of, like, obsessed with me to catch up on it all.
Sure.
And I was thinking about that the other day, you know, like, when I was a kid, I had no idea what my dad did my entire life. His business card said manager of fire control, if he would help design weapons. So fire means fire. But I don't know what that means to this day. But for our generation, I have put out way more shit there than my kids could ever finish in a lifetime. It's weird. It's like I could die, and they wouldn't even have to finish.
Oh.
As it sounds like he just drove off the bridge.
What? Still hear me?
Well, when you said it's like you could die, then you kind of cut out. So I was thinking, well, we'll have to send your children at least this.
Yeah, the logic became inescapable, and I just went over the edge.
Yes.
No, we're caged in pretty tight here on the bridge. I don't even know if I can possibly get over this barrier.
Oh, yeah, no.
But it's funny how just in one generation, on zero data to data overload. I mean, the pictures on my phone alone are in the thousands on thousands. How are they going to sit through all this crap?
I have no clue.
Yeah,
but it's amazing. Go ahead, Fingers.
Norm Macdonald did a really good bit on his last appearance on Letterman, talking about how his great-grandfather, there was only one picture taken of him, and 90 years from now, you could say, you want to see my great-grandfather? Here's 90,000 pictures of him.
Yeah. You can watch his beard grow. You can watch him wrinkle. You can see him get older.
So you're doing another podcast. You've got the one on the Anthony Cumia Network, which I say everybody should subscribe just so they can listen or watch that show, because I try to keep up with it now that I've joined, and it's absolutely worth it. The stuff that you do is unbelievably funny, and I like that the show is really ADD, where it's just like all of a sudden you're just like, yeah, no, I'm bored with that. Let's do something else.
Yeah, I sort of feel like I'm on a plane and the pilot is having a heart attack. So it could crash at any moment. And I just want to get it all out before we hit that mountain. So it's not very pleasant in that sense. You can't really relax. But that's the secret to being entertaining. And I like having a lot of guests because they can sort of derail an argument and keep you out of a rut, conversational rut. But it's hard getting liberals. It really is. And when you get them, they're really guarded because they're not fit. They haven't worked out the muscles of their argument.
Sure.
So when you bring up something that strays from the narrative, they give you the old, we're a nation of immigrants, and this country was stolen from the Indians, and slavery built this country, blah, blah, blah. And you go, you start to pick it apart, and they just go, oh, I've never gone farther than that Facebook meme.
Yes. That's what it is. I know everything you're going to say because I also read Occupy Democrat memes every day because they flow through my feed.
Yeah. We stole... Yeah. Like, what did we steal from the Indians exactly? We brought them horses, beads. We warred with them for 400 years. Eventually they lost. How long did we fight the Nazis for? An hour and a half? They should be proud.
No, it's really stunning that you scratch the surface and you realize that they have nothing to back it up. And one of the funniest things that you did that recently was go to that Trump rally and engage with the people that were there protesting him, and the exchange you had with the woman about immigration, and you were talking about rape culture, and you brought up coyotes, and she just stormed off. And it took you about 30 seconds to realize that she thought you meant actual coyotes as in the animal, not the slang term for the people that traffic these people over the border.
And wasn't her reaction bizarre, too? Like, say I was saying that small dog-like animals are raping women. You wouldn't say, good coyotes, good day, sir. You would go, what are you talking about? You think dogs are raping Mexicans? What?
Right.
Like, you'd laugh.
Yes.
But she really showed what Steve Summers calls them fainting couch feminists.
Mm-hmm.
And they really are so similar to Victorian England's Puritans, where everything, oh no, oh my God, what have you said? That's sexual or that's rape. Or remember there was that college that had a bronze statue of a guy wearing underwear?
Yes.
And students complained. They said it's evocative of rape culture. He can't get you. He's a statue.
And don't you think that's how Hillary's going to play this throughout the course of the campaign? I'm assuming she's going to do everything she can to not debate Trump because of, his rhetoric is just so anti-woman. She wants to be the leader of the free world, part of the time, and then part of the time she wants to be a delicate flower that can't be talked to that way.
Is it possible that she could get there without debating Trump? I guess anything's possible.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I know that that's what's in her mind because she let it slip a couple months ago when she was playing that game with Bernie. Bernie kept dogging her, saying we need to have a debate before the New York primary. And that's when she came out and said, well, I'm not going to debate him because his tone right now is just something that I can't deal with. As if that's supposed to instill confidence in me as a woman who doesn't believe in this shit. I don't really know that, she definitely doesn't deserve to be president. I don't believe this garbage that a woman president would be more peaceful or anything like this because I know a little bit about history and like women leaders leading people into battle and slaughtering people. We can talk about, Queen Elizabeth and Mary. They were no saints, okay? They killed a lot of people. Hillary, you've already been implicated in the deaths of some people. But yeah, that to me was just like, okay, this is her laying the groundwork for in the fall when she's going to be like, I can't be on the stage with Donald Trump because his tone is just something that I cannot deal with. I'm not even going to dignify it. But yet, trust me to go negotiate with Putin, stand up to the Iranians, stand up to the Saudis. Come on, like no one's buying this crap, lady. I think she's going to get her ass handed to her by him because I think he'll say that, which is why I've always cheered for him because it's just like, this is amazing. It'll be like, listen to me, old bag. You can't play this damsel in distress game and then also say you should be the commander in chief. Those two things do not add up.
It really, I think Jim Goad, who said this, he was describing feminism as women want all the benefits that men have, but still to be treated like women. So
Yes.
she says she's equal to a man, and then all of a sudden, no, we have to vote for her because she's a woman and we need a woman president. And then all of a sudden, no, women aren't the same as men. And you go, I mean, you keep playing this woman card. I don't understand why she thinks that ridiculing Trump for saying woman card is a big error on his part. Like, he shouldn't have said that. That's what everyone says about Hillary. I mean, I've talked to people on the streets. I did a man on the street for Fox. And every woman I spoke to said, why should you vote for Hillary? It's time for a woman president. Her genitalia is the only thing getting her into the White House. That's called a woman card. Yeah, like when Romney said that only half the country pays tax. Yeah, that's exactly the case. You're correct, sir. In fact, his biggest mistake was backing down from that comment. But yeah, I'm hoping that women don't go to the polls this election because they vote with their hearts and not with their minds. And that's not good policy.
No, it's horrible. And they turn out more than men do. And most of them are just emotionally driven ninnies that have no clue. And they buy that crap like, oh, we need a woman president. And they don't even take a look at their own life and realize, like, women are really shitty to each other. That's why every single big franchise reality series that revolves around actual people that are friends, like the Housewives, the entire point of that show is that they're all terrible to each other all the time.
Yeah. TV loves conflict, and there's no more conflict than woman-on-woman crime.
Correct. You don't even need to really stage all of that stuff. It just happens naturally because we're terrible to each other.
Well, I do have this theory that all the producers are gay, and they get in there like little Rasputins and say, you should go talk to Jennifer. She called you a bitch. You should tell her not to call you that. Did you call me a bitch? No. Are you lying? And then it's just like little gremlins. They get in there and just start messing up the woman's kitchen until they all go crazy. I mean, all those reality shows ruin women's lives. I think there's been like 2 suicides and 7 divorces. It's real anarchy.
But you're right to a certain extent about how the producing side works. I worked on a handful of those shows. And if they're not completely managed, then there are those little producers putting things in your ear.
Why do you want to be famous so bad? Like, the funny thing about reality is it's all the fame without the money. So you get the worst of both worlds. I remember Bill Murray was told, someone said to him that they want to be rich and famous. And Bill Murray goes, try being rich for a while and get back to me. Reality stars are like, I want to be poor and famous. I want to be bothered by strangers on the street, but not have a nice home. Okay, we'll set it up.
Well, some of those are making bank, though, Gav. Like the chicks on the Housewives are pulling it down. The kids on Vanderpump Rules are getting a decent cut. I can't remember. I think they make like 25, 30 grand an episode.
Yeah, I guess some of them, when the season gets renewed, they start a payoff. But I think at the beginning, it's only a couple grand.
Yeah, like the Jersey Shore kids were one of the first ones that got major ink for this. I think they got $5 grand an episode, or maybe for the whole season, the first season. And then they wised up and realized, like, hey, we have a lot of leverage here because everybody loves our show. And then they started making real money.
The demand for fame is so high, I'll never quite understand it. I mean, I was in a band when I was 18, and I kind of got a mini taste of celebrity back then because in our tiny town, in our tiny scene, our band was pretty popular. And I realized most of fame is just talking to someone that you don't know about something you don't want to talk about, and it's the same 3 questions again and again. Like, every time I hang out with famous comedians like David Cross, if we try to talk to them, and honestly, every 20 seconds, a college student will interrupt and say, hey, man, just want to say, love your work, love your work. Like, what did you do that for? You just interrupted us. It's not a fun life.
No, I wouldn't think so. And I'm sure if you're hanging out with him, you hear tons of dumb stuff as well. Like people pulling back from anything from Mr. Show to, the never nude stuff from Arrested Development, and it just gets so old.
Well, it's funny. He's done so much stuff that you can judge the real estate value by what people yell at him. Like if you're in a bad neighborhood, you hear like, "Yo, that's that scary movie too," and they go, "What's up?" And then if you're in Tribeca, you hear like, "Arrested Development, hey Tobias." And then if you're in like a college area, it's all Mr. Show stuff. it's you should work for real estate companies. Before you buy a house, just see what people yell at David Cross to see what the property value is like. Speaking of property value, I'm trying to get back into my apartment here. We just had an open house. I got to sell it so I can get to the suburbs.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Gavin.
Yeah, I'd like to do it again when it's a little less hectic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry about all the noise.
No, it was fun.
Yeah, it gives it a lot of color.
Anyway, I'm going to cut out because I'm going in the garage.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Very interesting interview. I bet we're the only ones that have had Gavin while he's riding a bicycle.
Now what?
Do we want to finish your Michael Moore email?
Nah.
Or we've had enough of him?
Yeah, we've had enough of him. I mean, really, you sign up, you give him $27, and you get his shitty movie. Is that a draw anymore? I mean, honestly, do lefties even give a shit about Michael Moore? Well, I know they give a shit about him, but his movies. I mean, this last movie, I think I saw one ad for it, and I don't even know if it played locally in Indianapolis here.
Well, it doesn't sound like a ready-made film for his audience, and because his audience used to be the anti-war left that vanished the moment that Obama got his first kill list.
Yeah.
So it might be something that I would be interested in, although I don't trust his veracity in the least. But if it's an exploration of just like the endless war state and how, I think it was just last week, maybe the week before, they admitted that we've been engaged in Yemen. We've got no boots on the ground, of course, none. I don't know what they do to levitate our soldiers that are there, but apparently their feet never, ever impact the ground. I'm not kidding. I don't know if you saw the clip or read about it. Somebody, I don't know who does the briefings at the State Department because I just quit watching these liars. But it was reported at antiwar.com, which I read now a lot because they actually have news coming out of the Middle East that's not run through the Ben Rhodes washing machine and repackaged to fit the narrative. But they were saying, so there was a press conference like a week or two ago when they were making this announcement that we were sending more special forces troops into Syria to help with ISIS. And I don't know what the total is now. It's like 500 or something like this. And so one of the reporters there pushed back and said, so we're putting, Obama said we weren't going to put boots on the ground. And this dude from the State Department had the balls to say, Obama never said that.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's like, what? And I mean, the exchange, just reading the transcript of the exchange is really funny because the exchange goes, yeah, the president never said that. Reporter says, what? Yes, the president never said that. But you're wrong. We all heard him say that. And it's reported he said it a total of at least 16 times on camera. There will be no boots on the ground. But that never happened.
And he can get away with it.
Apparently. Well, I mean, there was pushback, but see, they just moved the ball along. So we have to talk about trans bathroom rights for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can get away with that when you're a Democrat. And now, especially during this election cycle, I mean, talking about something as trivial as American troops on the ground in Syria, that's ridiculous. We need to talk about Trump.
Absolutely.
Trump. I really didn't want to get into this.
You know it was going to happen.
Oh, here's the deal. You can never let any politician live rent-free in your head.
Yeah, anybody. I mean, this is a rule that applies to anybody, right?
It should be anybody. Well, I understand, you got an ex or something that,
Yeah.
that wrongs you in some way and you won't let it go. But a politician, I'm amazed at, and this isn't just the never Trumpers. It's also the pro-Trump people.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these people on Facebook and on Twitter, they can't go 2 hours without saying something about Trump. It's like, don't you people have lives? Don't you turn on television and have it not on a channel, or have it on a channel other than CNN or Fox News. Do you ever watch baseball? It's baseball season. Watch a baseball game.
And even though basketball sucks, like they're heading to the playoffs, it's hockey playoffs time.
Yeah. But it's almost like clockwork. Every 2 hours. Oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. I got to put up my Trump post. I've never seen anything like it.
No, it's insane. And I would love to see stats on how effective Facebook posting is in converting people to your side in a political fight. Because my guess is it's not particularly effective.
No. It's just preaching to the choir.
For the most part. Or you're trying to piss off the choir.
Right.
Or what used to be part of your choir, but you've since been like, nope, you're booted.
I do my best not to mute anyone on social media. Mm-hmm. I still have, some of my best friends here in Indianapolis are Bernie Sanders supporters, and I see their posts all the time talking about, there's still a path to the nomination. He could still do it.
There is, and let them live that dream because I love it.
But then there's the other stuff too that drives me nuts. About Medicare for all and all the other garbage that comes with the he could still win that make me want to pull my hair out. But I do what I can not to let politics get in the way of friendships. But from what I see on Facebook and Twitter, most of my friends don't try to follow that same life policy. It's I have decided I'm either for Trump or I'm against Trump, and if I'm against Trump and you're for Trump, I'm not only I'm gonna not only ignore you, I'm going to block you. I never want to talk to you again because you're a moron, and vice versa. And I've never seen anything like this.
It's stunning, and it provides me with hours worth of entertainment, and it makes me feel really good about myself for not stooping to engage in that nonsense, even though I'm tempted from time to time.
It's hard not to jump in, but I've made that mistake once or twice on social media where I will put something out there, someone will disagree, and I will get into a heated debate, whether it's on Twitter or on Facebook. And then when it's all said and done, nobody's mind was changed from that debate, and you just lost 2 hours of your life.
Yep. And you're still angry, probably, and you're going to carry that with you.
Right. I don't get it. So many people in this election cycle have completely lost their mind. And
I don't know how many of them are destroying their careers at the same time.
That's a good question. Between the people in Never Trump and the Trump will cure everything wing of the Republican Party. The media landscape and the new media landscape will be different in 2017. It's going to be interesting to see who will get through this and still have some credibility, and who will kind of drop off and will either be a punchline or will never be heard from again.
Yeah, I don't know how the shakeout's going to come down. I really don't. It's going to be interesting. I think some of these big think tanks are going to have to slash staff, because why would anybody give money to them? They've proven themselves to be completely ineffective.
Right. Or political consultants.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're dead in the water. I mean, even on the Democrat side, like these ads that they think are so brilliant, I assume that they think they're brilliant, because you wouldn't spend a bunch of money running an ad that you didn't think was going to be effective, right? The ads that Hillary's putting out to try to combat Trump, and you end up seeing them and just laughing hysterically at it.
Yeah.
Which is not the intended outcome, obviously. Like, they want you to just be horrified, and meanwhile, you're just like, this dude's a laugh a minute. I mean, what the hell? Yeah, it's crass and gross, but you know what? You people treat us like garbage. Who was it? Do you remember this in the wake of the BP oil spill? And I think it was the Secretary of the Interior, I want to say. They came. I'm going to say Vilsack, but I don't know if that's right. It doesn't matter. Some bureaucrat dick came out and just said something about putting their boot on the neck of BP.
Of BP, yeah.
Yeah. This is what these people think of all of us. So do I care that Donald Trump is crass? Not even a little bit. I wish I could get up in these people's faces and be as crass as he's being. This whole idea that you need to respect politicians, I think, is completely un-American.
I
They're
understand
not
why.
supposed to be revered.
No, yeah, I don't get that, and I do understand to a certain extent that people want their president to act presidential, but now you got President Selfie Stick.
Yeah, like having a dance party in the Roosevelt Room of the White House with R2D2 and C3PO and some why can't I think of what the hell they're called? Stormtroopers?
Right.
Like, that's totally normal. There's nothing that seems reality television-ish about that kind of behavior. Me and the wife are just going to dance party it up. But that's presidential, yo. Because we're showing that we're down with the culture.
The pearl clutching.
Yes.
This election cycle has just been unbelievable. I mean, to hear some people, and again, they try to play it off as, well, he can't say that because he's running for president, but I can say stuff like that and it's okay.
Yes. I just don't think it's an effective tactic to take against your political opponents. But being like, well, I'm just pretending to be exactly like the candidate you love to show you how gross it is. It's a different ballgame. He's using that crassness to attack politicians and media figures, who are the two most loathed groups in our entire country for good reason. The media openly lies to us because they're fed BS right out of the White House. They're towing the state line 100%. So, no, I don't feel bad that Donald Trump is saying F you to people in power. That's what he's doing. And that's why people are cheering. And it doesn't matter what he says or that he takes more positions than a porn star. And no one cares. This is about F you to power. It's not truth to power. It's F you to power.
Well, what's going to be interesting,
and he's doing it.
What's going to be interesting to see is how he's going to, and it's going to happen sooner or later, how he's going to handle the hours of interviews he's done with Howard Stern over the years. Because, you go into Howard Stern's studio and you're not going to walk out of there, especially if you're a billionaire who likes to play fast and loose with the insults. You're not going to get out of a Howard Stern interview without saying something provocative. I would think the reaction to that was, look, it's a bit. Everybody knows, going in that, I'm going to say something outrageous. I'm not just a real estate mogul. I'm a media personality. But
I think his whole thing is like, look, I'm an open book.
Yeah.
I've always been me. I don't apologize for it. I've never apologized for anything in my life. I don't feel like I need to ask forgiveness, even though the Bible's my favorite book. And I think that's how I don't even think he gets into it. I know that they're going to try to use it, obviously. But anybody that knows anything about Stern gets that whole deal. And winning that whole audience over is going to be great. But the reasons that people like Bernie, including us, are like he's intellectually honest, but he has a political philosophy behind this. Trump is intellectually honest about himself, I guess. I mean, he's consistently just, whatever, I'm going to do whatever I want, say whatever I want. And that's the end of it. And I'm not going to hold back because it might lead to clutching of pearls. And I think we've had enough of that stuff.
Yeah, but on the other side of the coin, the people that are pro-Trump are just as obnoxious.
Sure.
As what
I'm
we're
not saying that they are. Well, it depends. Like, this is a generalization.
Of course.
Yeah, you're seeing selective behavior on the internet. And I don't understand why people get upset about that at all. I assume most of the stuff that I see that's just outrageous is people trying to be provocative and saying ridiculous stuff because they know it'll get a reaction, or it's teenagers thinking that they're clever and funny. So why, I don't know why you let that bother you, why you even acknowledge it.
And how much of it's real and how much of it is activists too that are, we saw that in the Tea Party movement where you'd have leftists show up with some racist signs to try to, smear the whole group. Right? And I think you're probably seeing some of that on social media when it comes to the Trump. But there are, and I know them. There are a lot of assholes in the Trump movement too. That mirror the I don't give a shit attitude of the candidate. And if you're talking, party unity and we got to bring people together, I don't think it's a good tack to get in people's face, getting people's faces or in social media, just going all over their Facebook wall and Twitter and saying, get over it, get over it, get over it, get over it. At some point, you got to say, okay, that's not your statement, get over it, isn't winning anybody over either. And you got to try a new tack.
No, there's no winning. The only way that people are going to get on board with Trump is if he starts announcing a cabinet that people like.
Yeah.
Or one of the libertarian podcasts that I love is Dave Smith's show, Part of the Problem. And he even admitted he's been observing all this just like we have. And sometimes he's cheering Trump and what he says. And other times he's just like, my God, I agree with him, too, on his critiques. Like the trade stuff is ridiculous. Like it shows that he has no idea what he's talking about and whatever. But like his anti-war kind of stance is pretty interesting to me. And I dig that. And he said the other day on his show, somebody asked me if he announced that he was going to have Ron Paul, who people that have dug through Trump's Twitter feed, because this is their job apparently, have coughed up like tweets that he sent out during the 2012 election, I believe, saying that he liked what Ron Paul had to say and like people should listen to him. And so there's kind of like this chatter in libertarian circles, like, is he going to do something with Paul? So they put to Dave Smith, they said, hey, if he announced that he was going to make Ron Paul his Secretary of State, what would you do? And he said, you know what I would do? I would quit all my jobs and go campaign for him. Like so I do think that there are some things that Trump could do to woo some of these people back. Definitely not all of them. And I don't even think he needs to even try for that. I think he's going to get such a sizable chunk of the Bernie vote. And that's what, at least according to what people tell pollsters. And I never know whether to believe that stuff or not. But what was it in West Virginia? Like a quarter of them, if not more, said they were going to vote for Trump if Hillary ended up being their nominee.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, too, that leading up to this election, we heard for 2 decades that the GOP was doing what it could to make it a big tent party.
Yeah.
Big tent party. We want a big tent. We want more the merrier. So then you've got these blue collar types that are coming in and they want to be members of the party and they're supporting Trump. And now you've got, I'm seeing, because of these polls that you're talking about, reaction on Facebook to the idea that maybe a third of Bernie Sanders supporters would consider crossing over and voting for Trump. Now, a lot of these people don't want those people, to even consider voting for. Oh, yeah, see, there you go. Trump, look, he's wooing the socialists. This is exactly what we told you. He's a leftist. It's like, okay, well, listen, you want to woo these people. Hope that, unless you want him to lose, but yeah. you would hope that once, if they decide to vote for Trump and he wins and they become Trump supporters, and if he does go ahead and start pushing free market principles in the federal government, then maybe some of these people would be converted.
Imagine that. And I also, I question the wisdom, too, about this idea that, the Senate is now in huge jeopardy and like all these House races and everybody's terrified. And it seems to me that they pay no attention to what's going on the Democrat side in this fight.
Of course.
Because Bernie's goal now, it's pretty obvious that he can't win. I mean, barring a miracle, he needs to get like 60% in every election now here on out to win enough delegates to cause a problem. So, but he keeps wanting his goal now, if not to win, is to influence the party platform, which means that the Democrats on the congressional election side are going to have to go out and sell to their people $15 minimum wage, maybe Medicare for all, paid family leave. Hillary's nonsense now with she wants affordable child care. So they want to cap child care at 10% of everybody's salary, which I don't know. The math involved in figuring this out for each individual family is insane. I don't know who's going to figure this all out. If that's going to be put on the people that run daycare centers or what. To be like, okay, you walk in there and you and your wife, and they're like, okay, well, what's your salary? All right, then you owe us this. So it's total, from each according to his ability.
Right.
So they're going to have to sell this whole thing. Oh, we're going to shut down, more global warming stuff. All that. And they think that they're just going to sweep The Republicans are actually scared that that the Congress is in jeopardy, that they're gonna lose majorities. Like their inability to recognize reality for what it is truly, truly stunning.
Well, the problem with the Republicans, though, is that the Democrats could come out with that much of that as their party platform, and Republicans are really bad at selling freedom and arguing against what the Democrats are trying to sell.
Well, and the Democrats sell, we care about people like you, right? Not you specifically, but just kind of people like you, whatever, take that as you may. And it would be so easy for the right to come out and just say, and I gravitate towards the Libertarian Party, obviously, and I think they do a little bit better of a job at this, but you just need to go Trump blunt on them and just be like, the government doesn't care about you. And just start listing off examples. They let people in Flint drink poisoned water. No, the water itself didn't have lead in it. It was the old ass pipes that they, you don't have to get into all this, but that's the reality of it. Just be like, the government let people drink poisoned water for months. Meanwhile, they're poison, there's high levels of lead in water all over the country. The government runs the water system. They have a monopoly. So that's how much they care about you. Oh, yeah. And let's go even further. We all know that they gave a bunch of people syphilis. We've all heard these stories. The Tuskegee experiments, all that wonderful stuff. They were doing forced sterilizations up until the 70s. They're sending people off to die in like wars that nobody even wants to be in anymore. So tell me again how it is that you're believing that they care about you.
On and on and on. Policy after policy that's been enacted. I mean, you look at, let's go back to the minimum wage.
Yeah.
It's been a job killer, especially for minority groups.
But see, this involves too much math and logic to get them there. If you just say, look, they poison the water, that's a sentence.
No,
they
understand
let you drink
that.
poison water.
I'm not talking about.
Right.
I'm just pointing out examples. And you
Sure.
look. Yesterday, a story came out that Wendy's is going to go to. Many of the Wendy's across the country are going to self-serve kiosks for when you order.
Yep.
Prepping for whatever minimum wage hike we're going to have. I mean, $15 an hour. That's insane.
Yes.
It's absolutely insane. And you're seeing, what was it, California? Mm-hmm. Did they just sign it into law?
Yeah, California did it and New York. But I mean, they give away the game here, right? Because they don't say, okay, this starts tomorrow. They understand that there's going to be an economic impact. They'll even admit it. So that's why they slowly introduce this, so that the market can try to handle it as best as possible. But it's not going to work out, and it's going to force mechanization to take place way ahead of when it would have.
Yeah. It's going to get to the point. You're already seeing it. I go to a Chili's by my house. Mm-hmm. And they have a little tablet on the table there that you can order more drinks. You can order your dessert, or you can pay your bill on it.
Sure.
So, you need less servers. Servers can cover more tables because they don't have to keep checking on you, and they don't have to bring you your bill.
And guess what? Your order's never getting messed up again.
There's that, too.
You don't have to wonder if you're rolling the dice with one of those servers that doesn't feel the need to write stuff down, and it's always like a crapshoot.
Right.
Are they really this good? Because it is possible. But when you get into like 5 and 6 people ordering things and asking for, I want my burger done medium, I would like cheddar, please don't put any this or that on it, and can I have that? I don't know. I have trouble believing that you can remember all of that. I would feel much better if you just pretend to write it down even.
Yeah.
But now that I know I can put it in a computer.
When did that become fashionable, by the way? That always drives me nuts. It's like, you're not impressing me that
Right.
you were memorizing my order.
No, you're terrifying me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm automatic. The whole time you're taking my order, you're going and filling my order, and the cook is cooking my order. I'm thinking, this is going to be fucked up.
Yep.
And it's taking away the enjoyment of the experience because this douchebag isn't writing down what I'm ordering.
Uh-huh. But now that's not a problem anymore.
No. And here's the other thing, too. As we get more accustomed to interacting with friends and family via our smartphones and our computers and tablets, the more I'm noticing that people really hate other people.
Yes.
So they hate the interaction. They don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to make a phone call when I've got to, order Chinese food. I hate the idea that I'm going to have to actually dial the phone and talk to someone. This is actually the first fast food joint that comes up with, kiosks to order. I'm going to go there 6 times a week.
Well, you're already doing that anyway.
Well, okay, that's true. But I'm going to go to that specific restaurant, though, 6 times a week. I'm not going to, mix and match to McDonald's one day, Taco Bell the next. I'm going to Wendy's every freaking day. If I can go up and just touchscreen order, pay with my card, and then they hand me food and I can walk away without having to say anything other than thank you. That's going to be great.
Well, you got to kind of experience that. Although we didn't get food there, but when I took you to Wawa, and I was like, look at the touch screen here. You can order any hoagie you want to your specifications, hot, cold. There are 2 different whole screens worth of toppings. You can also order, smoothies and all this nonsense. And we've had that technology in those stores for 10 years, maybe more. And they've just added more and more to the menu. And it's wonderful. I walk in there, punch in my little thing, go grab a soda maybe, bag of chips maybe, walk around for 5 minutes, go pay, come back, there's my sandwich.
And your service isn't going to be any better if they start paying these people $15 an hour.
Absolutely not.
They're going to screw up your order just as much as they did before. I mean, there's one. I stopped going to this one Taco Bell by my house because I'd say 1 out of every 3 orders I get at the Taco Bell drive-thru is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it drives me absolutely crazy because I don't want... I can't stand being behind someone at the window when they get their food and they take 5 minutes to look through every bag, to make sure they have their shit. So I do what I can to not be that person. But when you're ordering for 4 or 5 people, you could drive away and hope for the best that they're going to get it right. But I'm telling you, a third of the time, it's completely screwed up. To give them a raise, double their pay?
Yeah.
I mean, good for them. But there's going to be a third less of them working at that restaurant. And the service isn't going to be any better. And the prices are going to be more expensive.
Yep. But a few people will benefit, so that's what it's really all about.
That's really... who benefits? The people who voted for that because it'll make them feel better about themselves. That's what it's all about.
Well, that's why I contend that Democrats think they're doing a community service by voting.
Yeah.
That's the extent of their charitable contribution to society. I vote Democrat, then they take care of it. Because they care about people. Not people like me, people that aren't like me, that I feel bad for and should be taken care of by somebody, but not me.
But at some point, when they get their $15 minimum wage,
yes,
which may not be 15, it may be 12. 12 or 13, maybe the Republicans will stand up and say no. No, but if say it gets they get their minimum wage and they get their transgender bathrooms.
Yes. With
What's
a matron,
next?
with the transgender matron that gets paid $15 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, what?
I don't know. You can never sense these things.
Yeah, if you would have told me a year ago that transgenders in bathrooms would be a huge issue,
you would have
thought you're crazy.
Right. Apparently, they've been negotiating this bathroom thing this whole time without causing so much as a ripple. This is why I don't understand the right. And why I'm so happy not to be a part of it anymore. I'm just like, really? You guys needed to put in a law? Was there anything going on? And how are you going to enforce this? Are we talking about cops standing outside of every single bathroom doing genitalia checks on people? This is nonsense. When people talk about a police state, like criminalizing everything, we live in a police state. And that reminds me of the piece that you had from Reason about the dollar amount of military grade weapons that have gone to local police departments over the past decade.
It's terrifying.
It's just astonishing. Like they had grenade launchers. I'm like, is this what this is what we put in the hands of local law enforcement. And now you're talking about bathroom laws. Like, are these going to be enforced at the point of a tank? I I mean, they haven't given them tanks, but they've given them armored vehicles.
Damn near tanks.
And you know they're all wanting these armored drones. Yes. Grenade launchers were on that list, though. I'm thinking to myself, like, what the hell kind of situation would warrant local police departments using grenades against citizens? Grenade launchers. I mean, are they going to use to launch like tear gas or something like this at the Democrat convention in Philly? It's a possibility. But this is just craziness.
But if you push back, because the first thing they do is they arm the SWAT teams with this kind of stuff. If you push back, it's a lot like when liberals talk about increasing funding for education. It's for the children. It's for the children. The first thing they do with this militarization of the police forces, we're trying to save police officers' lives. Do you not care about cops? It's like, well, I do care about cops, but I'm in a little suburb here in Indianapolis. Does my local police force, do they have to have a tank?
I don't know. Do they need, I pulled up the article. It's by Anthony Fisher over at Reason. And he's summarizing what they found in this report, right? The actual weapons that they were given and other things. So it was something like 7,000 trucks, whatever that means. 625 mine-resistant vehicles. Because I know your neighborhood is just one giant minefield.
Yes.
Like Heather Mills has protested out there. If Princess Di was still alive, wasn't she a big one to get rid of the minefields?
Yes. She talked to Putin about it, if I remember correctly. No, was it? It was Princess Di.
Was it Yeltsin?
It was Princess. It may have been. I get Princess Di was a big anti landmine person, and so was Paul McCartney's.
Yeah, that's Heather Mills.
Yeah, Heather Mills. She was up in Putin's grill about it. I don't remember. It may have been Yeltsin for Lady Di.
Probably. So, okay, 625 mine-resistant vehicles.
For all the IEDs that you see.
Yes. 471 helicopters. 56 airplanes. Because, sure.
That's all got to be for pot, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Planes? What?
What are they going to do with these planes?
You can do it with drones now. You could just fly over... cornfields or wherever someone, cut a hole in some sort of crop and put some marijuana there.
Yeah, you can use drones. That seems much more practical than airplanes, but they don't specify like how big these planes are.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee you they don't need them.
No.
329 armored trucks and then some cars. No number on the cars. But so I'm thinking, like, why aren't they selling these things off and trying to recoup the huge amounts of money? Because he's saying this is $2.2 billion worth of military gear. So can't we sell it and try to get some of that money back?
Who you gonna sell it to?
Well, you could sell it to private citizens if they wanted. Helicopters can definitely
helicopter, yeah. Some of it, you could sell.
A mine-resistant vehicle. Like, what if I want that? I don't know. I could use an airplane or an armored truck. Some of the other stuff, like the M16s, I love. I'm not allowed to have those because I assume that those are I thought M16s are fully automatic.
Can you even have, in Philadelphia, can you have a handgun legally?
It's a big process, I believe. I don't live in the city limits, so I've never had to deal with that. But I think there's quite a regime around that. I think.
Well, is there gun violence in Philly? Because I would think if there are handgun bans in Philly, there wouldn't be any gun violence.
No, and there wasn't just maybe a month ago. Calling back to what Gavin was talking about the commercials they put out about little kids living in rich, posh, white suburbs shooting themselves accidentally, and it's just like, no, the kids that get shot by guns accidentally, it's usually like some gangbanger. That happened in Philly. And it wasn't a little kid that shot themselves accidentally. It was the gangbanger himself accidentally shot one of his daughters, killed her. And then I can't remember. He tried to like pin it on the sister or something like this. It was this weird, bizarre kind of like just disgusting, revolting scene. But that didn't get any play outside of Philly.com and like our local newspapers. But so you could sell some of this stuff. I think my favorite thing though was 5,638 bayonets.
What?
Yeah. Don't you remember Obama clowning Romney in that final debate, I believe it was? And he was like, yeah, you guys are talking like horses and bayonets. You know, our military doesn't work that way anymore. Huh? And yet, here we go. Like, they have bayonets, and it's 36 swords and scabbards. 36.
We need to find out.
What the hell is a local police department doing with this?
Yeah, we need to find out if there's a report showing where all this stuff went. What police departments requested the swords?
Yeah. I this has links back to where they're getting this information, so I could dig into it more, I guess. But it came from a FOIA request, of course. They had to just it's just unbelievable. Who's running around with swords? I mean, are they just hanging them on their office walls? Because that's pretty badass. But you're talking about, 5,638 bayonets. How much do you think that costs? Because they do put the dollar value next to it. 5,000 bayonets. What do you think?
Well, that would depend.
Okay.
Now, if that were a private market bayonet versus how much the government paid per each bayonet, because
Sure.
you know whatever the government paid would be triple what you and I would pay for a bayonet. Well, I don't know,
It's actually not that bad.
$200 a piece.
No, actually, I'm surprised. Let me double check my math. Yeah, they were. Oh shit. Let me reverse that again. Only $54.58 per bayonet.
Oh, that's impressive.
That's pretty cool. But I wonder if they're like the equivalent of a Bowie knife on a mount. Because I'm assuming that these are going on machine guns.
Well, now I'm
Or
going to have to
M16s.
look whenever I see police footage. When
You
they
have to
bring
look for the bayonets.
Yeah, I got to look for the bayonets.
It seems pretty dangerous because normally when you see cops, on like the reality shows or whatever, they usually have the shotgun mount. Sometimes it's between the front seats and that. So like that's the bigger weapon that they carry. They usually carry like a 45 as a sidearm.
Maybe they put the bayonets on the tasers.
Oh,
So when the
smart.
taser doesn't work, you got when all
You
else
stab.
fails, you get stabby.
Oh, this is crazy. Thank God they have bayonets, though.
Yeah.
That'll show them. That'll totally drive down the crime numbers.
But if you find out your local police force got a bunch of bayonets from the federal government and you question the police chief, you're going to hear, oh, so you don't care about policemen's lives, do you?
Why do
We
they need
need
an
those-
airplane?
We
How does
need
that
those
work?
bayonets. No, airplane. It has. Look, if you would have said that 15 years ago, I'd been like, okay, it's they're looking for pot fields,
Right. Because that's productive use of all of our
Well,
money.
of course, yeah. But now with drones,
Yeah.
you and I could take a drone. And
Yeah, I told you I got a little drone. It's like less than $100. It has a beautiful HD camera on it. That thing is amazing.
God, how long can you fly that without the battery running out?
About 6 to 7 minutes. But this is, a cheapo thing, so I can't even imagine how good the ones are that are over $1,000. Like, it's insane. The quality of the video and what you can do with it flying, like how high it'll go, where it'll go. But
How
I
high
wanted
will
to
yours
go.
go?
I don't know. I get scared when I get it above like 50 feet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, I don't trust myself totally yet to fly it. And there are a lot of trees around me.
Oh.
I almost hit the telephone wires the other day and I'm like, eh. So I wanted to go fly it in Valley Forge Park, which is about 10 minutes from my house.
Do you need a permit?
Oh, you're not even allowed.
Ugh.
I thought about it before I left. And I thought, I wonder if there's a law against this because we're an overly litigious society. So I Googled, can you fly drones in national parks? Nope, you cannot. And I do think that there's a way I could get around it because in Valley Forge Park for years, there's been a section of the park where they allow you to fly remote control helicopters and planes. So I think what I would have to do, and it's not even like a cool looking part of the park, which is so it's lame. Like there's a beautiful arch there. There are a bunch of log cabins that are there. There's an awesome church that, like Washington was in there. Washington's headquarters is beautiful. Like all these really cool things to see. and I could get aerial footage of it, and I could probably sell it to the damn tourism board and make a nice coin off of it. But no, I think I have to go to the ranger station and then pay for a permit to just go fly it in this horrible part of the park that's right above the Pennsylvania Turnpike. It's like, that's what I would get to see. Just a grass field and the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
And so you're going to drive, 30 minutes?
No, it's about 10 minutes from my house.
Oh, I was going to say, to fly a drone for 6 minutes and you need a permit?
Yeah. Well, I have a couple batteries. But it's just so lame. It's like, really? I can't. I mean, this thing is so not dangerous.
Yeah.
I've almost hit myself with it because that's how inept I was at driving it at first. It's kind of something you got to get used to. But it wouldn't hurt, even if it hit me going at full speed. It might sting a little bit, but I'd recover. And I'm definitely not going to fly it around with a bunch of strangers or children or anything. I mean, they're giant parts of this park. They're just wide open with nobody in.
Well, and I'm not saying that they should be banned and you shouldn't be able to fly them in a state park or a federal, any kind of federal land. But there are douchebags.
Sure.
You're not a douchebag, so you can be trusted. But
right, but can I take can you pass the non-douchebag test? Because your tax money is going to pay for the upkeep of this place.
Right.
I mean, it was one of the places that was shut down during the government shutdown. They put up sawhorses across the entrances.
And were people standing outside of the sawhorses, sobbing violently?
Yes.
Weeping.
Why can't I just go stand on the grass over there? I mean, you rarely see a ranger. When I was in high school, it's like the place to go and do bad stuff.
Right.
Because the odds of somebody finding you in this giant expanse are next to nothing.
Isn't it amazing that 17-year-old Tracy Connors probably would have gone out into that park with a bottle of vodka and wouldn't have been at all apprehensive to do so, but adult Tracy Connors doesn't want to take a drone out there because she may get caught.
Well, it's not even it's just the hassle. Like, I really thought about, you know what, just F it. I'll just go over there and pretend that I'm stupid and I didn't know, and just run the odds of a ranger actually finding me are pretty slim, because I would know where to go in that park to stay kind of on the DL with it.
You know what would probably happen to you?
Someone would tattle?
Yep, there would be some do-gooder who has the park ranger hotline in their phone that would see you. There's always one person that has to be the unofficial
hall monitor.
Yeah, hall monitor, and they would rat on you. But by the time that they would get out there, because I'm sure there's not some quick response team,
no,
you would be long gone before any ranger got out there to confiscate your drone.
Well, I would probably lay into them, because this bathroom thing got me thinking about the bathrooms in that park, and you're probably not going to appreciate this story as a straight white male.
Yeah.
But I noticed, like I said, the park is huge. It's really big, and there are different areas in it that I like to hang out in, and at different times I've been like gravitating towards one or the other. And for a period of time, I was sitting in this one part of the park where there's a bathroom, because I tend to have to go to the bathroom a lot. I'm constantly drinking water, so it's nice. That's just convenient. So I would sit at these picnic tables and read or whatever and hang out there with friends and stuff. And the second or third time we were there, we started noticing this pattern of the parking lot that was right there was full of cars in which a single man was sitting in the driver's seat.
Oh, no.
And what would happen is a new car would enter the parking lot and do like a lap, and then it would disappear. And sometimes it would come back, and sometimes it wouldn't. And we started noticing that what that was happening was there's another parking lot like above that. It's up a hill, so you can see. So anytime a new car came into the lower parking lot, a car from the upper parking lot would come down to just check it out. And eventually what would happen is one man would get out of his car and wander into the bathroom or into the woods. Normally it was into the bathroom, though. And then, just to make it look like less obvious, the other one would wait about 5 minutes and wander into that bathroom. And this is broad daylight, because those bathrooms get locked at sundown. It's a public park, but it's closed at dark.
Right.
God forbid. So this is all going on broad daylight. And if I'm noticing this just after 2 days, I have to believe that the park rangers know this. And I was recounting this story to one of my sister's good friends because she spent a lot of time hanging out there too. And she was like, "Oh, is it the bathrooms over by the arch?" And I was like, "Oh, no. These are the bathrooms over by." She was like, "Oh, I've seen the same thing happen at that one too." So it's just like, oh, so this goes on all the time right under their noses and they don't give a damn. So I'm actually laughing at this now, thinking about the bathroom thing. And I'm supposed to get worried that some guy's going to dress himself up in a woman's outfit or just tell people that he identifies that, regardless of even putting forth the effort of buying a wig and come into the bathroom and molest me. When meanwhile, in the men's room,
yeah,
it's like a porno show over there.
Everybody has different attitudes about this, and I understand, but I've got a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old, both girls. And, if my 12-year-old goes into the bathroom by herself and some dude just goes wandering in afterward, I'm not looking for a cop. Mm-hmm. I'm going in there and, he's going to get yanked out and he's going to be dotted in the eye.
Right. And what do you tell her if she's not with one of you and something like that happens? What do? You scream bloody murder and you kick him in the nuts.
Right. That's how you handle it.
Yes.
I don't write someone saying there should be a law.
Yeah.
I thought that's how we. I thought that's how we roll.
Nope. We have to get outraged about this, and there needs to be a law immediately.
Well, but I will say that 15 years ago, if we walk through the scenario I just laid out, and the cops show up because I yanked a guy out of the bathroom and I punched him in the face for following my daughter,
they'd high five you.
Yeah, they would high five. Now I would probably be thrown in jail.
Yes.
As soon as he gave the rap, listen, I identify as a woman, I was going to the bathroom.
This is what you have to do. But you have to say that you also identify as a woman.
Yes.
This is the same thing that I think that everybody that gets caught by the cops from now on that is an actual citizen should just deny their citizenship and see what happens. Because apparently you're allowed to get away with a hell of a lot if you're not documented. So let's put it to the test. Let's see how quickly they start enforcing those laws when other people are just like, "Oh, this is my get out of jail free."
Yeah, if I ever won the Powerball, that's the kind of crazy shit I would be doing.
Yes. Yeah. She's like, "Oh, you can't see my papers. That's racist." I'm like, "What, sir? You're a white man." No, I do not identify as such. How dare you? I identify as an illegal immigrant. And I expect to be treated as such. Where's my attorney? Get the ACLU on the phone. Where's Maddow? I want a live satellite. Maybe Ed Schultz could pipe me into his RT show.
Oh, I forgot he's on RT.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of RT, is hosting the a libertarian debate, which we'll have to dissect next week. Yes.
The libertarians, and I'm seeing some of this on Facebook where you've got the never Trump people are trying to figure out what they're going to do. You've got some people that are saying they're going to vote for Hillary. You've got others that are saying they're going to write in, Ted Cruz's name or whatever. And then you've got a portion of them that are flirting with the Libertarian Party. And Austin Peterson, who, by the way, I saw one. I should have taken a screenshot because it cracked me up. Said, I'm really interested in the Libertarian Party, and I'm really looking into this Adrian Peterson. Like, oh, wow. I don't think you are. Really.
If that's what you're Googling, you're coming out with something totally
different. Right. But here's my problem with Austin Peterson.
Yes.
I'm not comfortable with his background. I mean,
Working for FreedomWorks?
Well, look, I love the folks over at FreedomWorks, but you look at his resume, it's awfully thin.
Oh, he's 35.
Yeah, I get that.
And he's been a movement kind of guy.
Yeah. Does that make you feel comfortable voting for him to be president of the United States? I mean, look, there's next to no shot in hell he's going to be president, but still, I feel much more comfortable voting for Gary Johnson.
No, I don't really care about resumes at all. George Washington went to school for like 2 years.
Well, yeah, but George Washington.
I know he was the commander in chief and all this stuff. Blah 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 blah.
Is there anything there that on Austin Peterson's resume that you could point to that you say, okay, I feel confident that if he were president of the United States, he could deal with the crisis in Iran or.
But I don't think that anybody is necessarily equipped to deal with that, regardless of what your resume says. If we're going off pure resume, then Hillary, just because she's been around when that stuff has happened and had a voice in the matter, has the best resume. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he stands a chance in hell, but I'm not opposed to voting for him just specifically because his resume consists of activism and some TV stuff. It doesn't stop me at all. I've heard him speak.
Look, I hear he's a sharp cat. I haven't heard him speak yet.
No, he's a well-educated individual. He knows way more than I do about our history. Can get into constitutional arguments and sound at least sound like he knows what he's talking about. I know he's well read in the libertarian canon, so that's helpful. He seems to understand the philosophy and be able to explain it to people. And he's also an incredible Facebook troll. I did congratulate. He was at CPAC last year, and I went up to him and I just said, I just wanted to shake your hand because I think you're such an incredible Facebook troll, and I find it highly amusing. I mean, he was trolling like Trump before Trump was trolling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember what he said to you?
Oh, he was like, I appreciate that. And I was like, I want you to know, like, I'm not being sarcastic. And he's like, oh, okay, good. Because I don't think he could tell. I'm like, no, I'm legitimately really enjoying it.
You're hard to read, Tracy.
I know,
so
I know.
Sometimes I could completely understand how he would think that maybe you were being sarcastic.
Yes. Yeah, and he gave me that look, and I was like, oh, no. This is my serious tone. I know that I have tonal issues. It doesn't always convey what I'm thinking that it does. So I just want to clear that up. No, I really like it. No joke. I think it's funny.
But if you want to woo people, if you want people to take a look at the Libertarian Party for the first time,
sure.
Don't you think Gary Johnson is the better candidate for even though Austin / Adrian Peterson may
right.
be much more articulate when it comes to the libertarian philosophy.
Well, I think it's more palatable to the general public. It's like the same
people are
thing.
more comfortable with it, right?
He speaks Spanish. He can win. You're kind of making that type of argument. Yeah, I do think Gary Johnson would be an easier pill to swallow for the never Trumpers and maybe some other people, some leftists for sure, that would probably like him more than Austin. But I think Austin I think Austin is a lot more savvy as far as messaging goes. Like there's a big write-up in Breitbart about him today. They did an interview with him, and he says his politics can be summed up in the following. I believe in a world where gay married couples can defend their marijuana fields with fully automatic machine guns. And he actually, at one of his fundraising events, had a cake made that portrayed that. So it was like this cake that had pot leaves all over it, and then a gay couple holding hands, holding up machine guns. And then his campaign slogan is taking over the government to leave everyone alone. Like, those are things that, even the densest of leftists that rely completely on memes for their information can get into their thick skulls.
Well, yeah, he tweeted that out.
What?
That gay couple marijuana automatic machine gun quote. He tweeted that out. So if it fits in a tweet, it'll certainly make a good meme.
Right. And that's something that people can visualize. And how do they argue against it? I mean, he's taken away the moral high ground from them that they, didn't claim rightfully anyway. But it's just like, you're going to object to the machine gun part of it? Because that's probably what would be their objection. But the rest of it, you're pretty much behind.
Right.
So it's hard. I want to be optimistic and like stupidly optimistic about the chances that he could come out of that and then maybe steal a state or two and then throw the whole thing over to the House and see what the House would do. Paul Ryan and his big tent talk.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that, but that's what he said today after the Trump thing, or maybe it was yesterday. Just talking up that big tent again.
It's such horseshit. They want a Big Ten as long as they're the ones handing out the invitations.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've got a door monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
A bouncer.
They want a big tent, but not a wall. Like, I don't know. I understand why we need an enclosure. Why are we giving that up, but we can't close off the borders? But that's going to be an issue with somebody like Austin or Gary. You know, they're both no wall, no fence. You know, we'll go about enforcing immigration in another way.
I just want a smart look. The wall thing.
Yeah.
I just want some sort of security down there, and I want an orderly immigration process. That's what I want. I don't want...
Well, you want to know who's being let in.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't seem like that's too much to ask. And I take issue with the mischaracterization of arguments. You know, with the left, what they're doing now, and I watched Dan Savage do this last week. He was on Bill Maher, and I only watched because the panel was Dan Savage, that detestable piece of shit. And I don't know if you know who he is or not. He's a big lefty activist.
Yeah.
Whatever. Ann Coulter and Nick Gillespie. So that sounds splendid, right?
Right.
And I was really disappointed in Coulter. She let Dan Savage get away with saying all kinds of ridiculous stuff about immigration and this and that. And then she and Nick Gillespie kind of pushed back a little bit on the bathroom thing, but they let him characterize the argument as what the right is saying is that transgenders are actually all pedophiles. And that's why they can't be let in the bathroom. And she's like, wait, what? How do we get to that point? How do we get there? No, what we're saying is that pedophile predators are going to use this as a way to get access to those bathrooms.
Right.
That's the argument. And I don't know that I don't even agree with that, but that's what the argument is. So let's deal with that argument instead of your nonsense argument, which is nobody's saying. And the same thing is going on with libertarians and the argument about open borders or closed borders. And there is a fight about that. So if anybody's not up on this, like I'm letting you know, I've read this, both sides. There's some big heavy hitters that are on the side of like, hey, we do need to have border security. If that's a wall, I don't know. And it's an ongoing debate. But I keep hearing people talk about this, you know, the ones that are open borders say, well, what are we we can't have SWAT raids running around the country and like rounding people up. And I'm thinking, who said anything about SWAT raids?
Right.
And why can't you guys grasp the concept of, okay, say Trump wins, the day that he takes office, it's going to be like Reagan and the Iranians. They just let those hostages go, right?
Right.
So what's going to happen? And I never had this happen to me in high school because I was smarter than this, but I know a bunch of kids in my class that got busted for underage drinking at parties. And they were always the ones that didn't run fast enough from the cops.
Right.
Because the second the cops roll up, what happens? Everybody runs.
Right.
So imagine this on a grand scale where Trump is now the cop that's showing up at the high school drinking party known as illegal immigration. And just the fact that he's now on the scene, those people are going to hightail it the hell out of here.
I have a theory on the whole Trump-Clinton debates.
Uh-huh.
What if there are none because neither one of them want to debate?
I think Trump wants to debate. I'm certain he does. Why wouldn't he? He cleaned up in those debates.
Well, it all depends. If Trump has a little bit of a lead or, you know, they're tied, I could see a scenario. I don't feel like it. And so far we've seen it to where it appears as though Trump is the one that runs everything and he doesn't listen to advisors.
Yes.
But you may have a situation where debating you have everything to lose and nothing to gain. Yeah, and if it's a close race, I could see, well, Hillary is a horrible candidate.
Yes.
And not the best debater. Not a pleasant person. She's a horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
You've got so much on the line during a debate. I mean, these aren't the primary debates. This is, you know, they usually have, what, 3?
Well, that's what they agreed to last time around.
Yeah, 3, maybe 4 at the most. And you have the one vice presidential debate. I mean, I could see where these people are, you know, both camps would be like, there's too much to risk by debating.
I can see that, but I think the pressure is going to be so high because everybody wants to see this.
Absolutely.
The networks are going to want it like crazy. And I think what will happen, because I already think that Hillary has tried to lay the groundwork for this defense of I'm not going to be on stage with him because he's a crude, disgusting man. And I don't even want to be in the same room. Yes, I went to his wedding, but, forget that. And she's going to play that card. So if Trump employs strategery, what he'll do is he'll let her do that, and then he will dog her about it.
Yeah.
And just say, look, Hillary's afraid to debate me. And she'll eventually have to bite. I mean, this is the way that I see this going down. I don't know if it'll play out exactly like that, but I can't see Trump being the one that backs out first. So she'll back out first, and then he'll see that as an opportunity to challenge her and say she's not ready. And I wouldn't want to debate him at all, because you're never going to talk policy with him.
It's amazing that he's gotten as far as he has by saying really nothing about policy for the in debates.
That gives the lie to the whole game, right?
Yeah.
It just shows you like how absolutely fragile this entire system is. It's built on a mountain of lies and obfuscations and law and guns. And all somebody had to do is go pull a little Jenga block out of the bottom of it. And it's on the precipice of collapse. And like I saw Johnny Depp's name was trending on Facebook today, and who knows why their aggregators chose to put it up there or not. But people were reacting to it and being like, oh, like horrified, because he said, what was the headline? And I had that open, of course, and I decided to close it like an idiot. Let me see if I can find it again. But I saw some pearl clutching going on about this Johnny Depp headline. Let me find it. Sorry.
It's okay.
The headline, this is Rolling Stone headline, Johnny Depp, U.S. presidency won't work if Trump is elected. And most dishonest headlines, which I always love. I think we should start doing a segment called like the most dishonest headline of the week.
Yeah.
So that's a good attention grabber, right? But here's the full quote at least, but I didn't jump to the Hollywood Reporter, which is where they stole this from and repackaged it as original reporting on their behalf. So Depp says, here's the thing. If Donald Trump is elected president of the United States, in a kind of historical way, it's exciting because we will see the actual last president of the United States. It just won't work after that. And I think he's absolutely right. And that's why I cheer this, because people are going to see like how ridiculous this whole thing is. If somebody like him can come in and just take the keys to the kingdom. It's like, really? Was that easy to beat these fools?
Do you think Oprah runs in 4 years if he wins?
If there's still a presidency. This is what I'm saying. I mean, the chain reaction that will be set off if he wins. I see Vermont, those crazy wackos in Vermont that want a socialist secession.
Yeah.
They're going to get that shit ramped up so fast. And it'll be the funniest thing. We'll just be dying laughing and being like, oh, okay. It was always about like these hick redneck idiot Southerners that were talking about secession. And now it's actually the hippie commune where Bernie started will be ground zero for the departure. And you'll see a breakup of the union, which would it necessarily be such a terrible thing? Like, do we want our fates tied to the state of California? I don't.
You know, that'll be the interesting thing to see how. Well, who the hell knows? You're right. I mean, Jerry Brown came out a couple weeks ago and said that if Donald Trump became president of the United States, he'd start building a wall around California.
Yes. I think the republic is over as constituted. Of course, like everybody talks about like we're post-constitutional. Okay, it's time to accept that reality then. What does that look like going forward? And I think Ace had written a piece about this, or maybe it was just like a series of tweets about how we just need to break up. Like, let's just have a conscious uncoupling kind of thing. Where we're like, okay, we tried this out. It doesn't work. We're fundamentally like our principles, our core values are fundamentally opposed to each other. So why don't we just call it all off? The biggest problem is negotiating like who's then responsible for the debt.
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, there's an argument. I think it was put forward. I can't remember if it was Mises that put it forward or if it was Rothbard. It was probably Rothbard because I think Mises was dead by the time the Soviet Union collapsed. But they talked about this idea that like when the Soviet Union collapsed, they had a ton of debt. But guess what? It just went
away. Yeah.
Just gone. So maybe that doesn't even become an issue. And whether we become 50 independent states or If we break off into, segments where it's like the Northeast is on its own, the Southeast, the Midwest, who knows? But it's time to rethink this whole idea because it's just not working. And it just keeps getting worse. If we're seriously talking about bathrooms and reality television stars are taking over our political system, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe we were just better off without rulers telling us what the hell to do. If they can be tricked out of their own power structure by this guy. Don't be intimidated by them anymore. As soon as you stand up to these bullies, they cower. And they're immediately like, oh, Jerry Brown, wall it off. Go for it, dude.
Yes, please.
Money better spent than that stupid light rail you guys have been pushing.
Oh, my God, that expensive choo-choo train.
But hey, it's the technology of 1860s, whatever. Let's bring that baby back. That's the future. Retread.
Who likes getting on the train?
I don't. I avoid it at all costs. And this drone that I've been playing with, I'm thinking, like, how long is it until we have personalized ones of these?
Yeah.
And I did see a video about a week ago that some guy, and I can't remember what it was, like he was like a chemist or something, that had just built his own kind of flying vehicle in his garage. And all he did was take a bicycle frame, take the tires off, and then put giant fans, one in the front and one in the back, where the tires used to be pointed down. Mm-hmm. And he's just flying around this field. It wasn't like completely stable, but it's the same principle as the drones, which are set up, and it's a quadcopter. So it's 4 of those blades, and they're on the top instead of on the bottom.
I'll tell you what, I would get into a drone and fly around before I would get into a driverless car.
I know you would. And imagine, like, how are they going to police drunk droning? They can't. You come and catch me? Nah. See you later. I would much rather be in one of those. The odds of, like, crashing in that, so much less than being in a car. So much better freedom of movement. And then we don't need roads, so I no longer have to answer the stupid questions I always get asked by liberals. Like, who would build roads? Like, oh, you people in your roads.
I'm always amazed by that argument because I don't know what it's like in Pennsylvania, but after living in Indiana now for 16 years and before that Michigan, the roads suck.
Yes,
the roads are terrible.
Yes. And
that argument, well, what about the road? Oh, okay, yeah, they do such a wonderful job with the roads. I want them to be in charge of our health care.
Yeah. It's going to be, it's great now. It's optimal. We can never have better roads if they were turned over to a private. How would we raise money for them? I don't know. I'd be willing to do what we're doing now, which is paying a gas tax that's supposed to just go right into the highway fund, both on the state and federal level.
Yeah.
There's 2 separate taxes in Pennsylvania. I think we're edging towards the highest in the entire country. Just insane. And then I go next door. They're terrible. And they're forever doing work on them.
Yeah.
Right? It's constant.
Well, it's the crumbling infrastructure that we've heard about for 5 decades in every State of the Union address.
Well, it's an easy one because everybody sees the crap roads.
Yeah.
So is it just a whole setup on their part to just be like, let's just, do the bare minimum with the roads, so then we always have something to complain about. And that's usually the first place that left this go. And then the next place they go is education. And I have to wonder, and this is when you talk about cutting federal income taxes, okay? Federal income tax.
Right.
But do you not know how these things are supposedly paid for? Schools are paid out of property taxes, you idiots. What are you talking about? And this is why I truly believe, I'm thoroughly convinced at this point that none of them have given any more thought than reading a meme, absorbing that as ultimate wisdom, and not even reflecting on it. Just saying, yep, that's good. Good to go. The roads, that's my go-to when it comes to libertarians. Who's going to build roads? Well, gee, I don't know. How do you think we got roads to begin with in this country? I know the Philadelphia roads were built during the days of the Brits, and the main route out to where I live was just built by the merchants that wanted people from the city to be able to get out to their shops. That's so weird. You mean there was no government there that had to say, hey, you guys should build a road right here, where nobody needed it or wanted it?
Well, and then people act like the Department of Education's been around for, for centuries.
Yeah.
What was it? The late 70s?
Yeah. And they don't do anything at all. I told you, but I will repeat it now again. Like, as this is the first time I'm telling you. I watched the premiere episode of Chelsea Handler's new talk show on Netflix last night. And she said she wanted to leave E! Because she was sick of talking about the Kardashians.
Right.
And other things that she considers like completely vapid. And I can totally agree with that. And she keeps presenting this air of that she wants to learn stuff.
Okay.
And I can appreciate that too. You know, I'm constantly trying to learn more than I know right now. And but she doesn't adhere to Gavin's rule that he's been pushing recently, which I agree with, which is he won't talk about a subject unless he's read at least one book about it. I think that's a pretty good rule. So she opens her show with explaining, first it was Chris Martin sitting at a piano, which was so lame. And he had the front of it removed so you could see all the hammers hitting the strings in there. I was like, oh, wow, what a badass. Like, how neat. So cool.
No one should ever think that anything from Coldplay should open up anything ever.
Right. And I've always thought of her as being someone that's totally in the pop culture scene. Like, she gets it. And to think, like, this is what she came out with after a year off. It's just like, oh, I'm really going to pack the punch and I'm going to have the show open with Chris Martin.
What, a Nickelback turn her down? I mean, really?
Mm-hmm. And then so she, came out, had a little back and forth with him because it was some prearranged sketch thing. And then she explained that what she wants to do with the show. And she openly admits, like, hey, I'm not that smart. I didn't go to college. So I want to use this show to learn more. I want to have on politicians and educators and scientists and all this stuff. And she took a shot at Trump and talked about how Hillary is the most qualified candidate ever.
Of course.
Whatever. Yeah, of course. I roll. But it's okay. I could forgive all this. I still think she's hilarious. She's one of the funniest writers and one of the best female stand-ups, in my estimation. So her first guest, and I can't remember this sap's name because it's a new guy, was the Secretary of Education. So she sits down with him and we get to hear his personal sob story, which was, he overcame a lot of stuff.
So that was compelling television.
It was okay. But I knew that we had to get through this, and I don't mind hearing about him. He's mixed race. I think he said he's Black and Hispanic. And he lost both of his parents when he was young. Like, both of them had passed by the time he was 12. And so there were teachers in his life that reached out to him and really put him on the right path. So he's got like a JD, an MD, JD, a PhD, a master's, and an a BA, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive.
Sure.
And I think he grew up in like Harlem or the Bronx or something like that. Like, not a privileged upbringing at all. So I'm like, okay, cool. Awesome. I like that. I like that you've made something of your life and you don't seem to be in this like grievance industry nonsense of like you can't ever escape. So she said, okay, well, I'm a big dummy. What is it that the Secretary of Education actually does? And I'm not quoting this exactly, but the first thing that came out of his mouth was something along the lines of ensure the civil rights of the students are protected.
Unbelievable.
And she didn't say anything. She was just like, oh, uh-huh. And then it was, I can't remember what the second thing was. It was some other, social justice-y kind of cause. And then I can't remember if he had 3 or 4 things, but the last thing on the list was making sure that kids get a good education. I was just like stunned. Honestly, Chelsea's not one. I mean, for all the years that she was doing that show, she has a very stern-esque kind of interview style where she's not letting you get away with stuff. Right. And she totally let him just steamroll that. I would have been like, excuse me? Civil rights? What? The whole point of school is to educate kids. What are these civil rights problems that are coming up in the schools that the federal government's getting their hands involved in? Is this bathroom stuff? Like, the racial disparities in kids receiving punishments in schools? Like this kind of stuff, that's your main priority, not making sure that kids can read and write, because those numbers are in the toilet right now.
Just doing a quick Google search, Tracy.
Yes.
According to the president's budget, Oh, excuse me. Okay. The president's budget provides $77.4 billion for the Department of Education. So we're spending $77.4 billion on protecting the civil rights of every student in America.
Oh, jeez. I mean, and that's about it. And this guy, okay, his name is John King. Arnie Duncan was the previous one. So I think John King is a relatively new hire. Yeah, he became the Secretary of Education in March of this year. But his top priority is the civil rights of children, not reading and writing, not thinking about what kind of an education are they receiving and isn't it going to prepare them for the rest of their lives. No, that was the bottom of the list. So then she brings out Pitbull, who's a rapper.
Yeah.
And because he has a charter school. So they didn't have any back and forth about like the federal government and what they've done to decimate the charter system in DC and why would you do that? And it just kind of went on from there. I was just shocked. I'm like, Chelsea really is either she's really that uneducated that she doesn't know to kind of push that subject when you've got the Secretary of Education sitting there like lapping up everything, all the adoration you're bestowing upon him. And then you've got this rapper whose English is like embarrassing. Like he couldn't string together sentences. I was kind of like, wow, like this is rough. And she kind of made fun of him a little bit for that. But I wanted to hear more about like why he needed to go start a charter school. Like, why is that? Oh, is it because the department that this guy's overseeing that's supposed to ensure everybody's getting educated isn't taking care of these kids in Miami that you had to go and use your own money to start a school to foster their development?
Well, you know she's not going to challenge a lefty on education on her first show.
I guess not.
Or any other show for that matter.
I guess not. I mean, I have
$77.4 billion, Tracy. That's amazing.
How many? I wonder how many bayonets that would buy. I think the Department of Education's got some of this stuff too, don't they? They got some of that military grade.
Oh, probably. They probably have I'm amazed at the departments now that have some sort of militarization going on within their departments. It's insane. Where you like, really? Where did I see that? I shouldn't even be bringing this up because I don't have the information in front of me. I was like, really?
Well, we're gonna do. Well, we know the Department of the Interior has it.
Yeah.
The Bureau of Land Management, they've got it. I think the Department of Education has it because aren't they the ones that have been doing SWAT raids on people that haven't paid their student loans?
What?
Yeah. There have been some people that have been at the point of the gun because they have unpaid student loans. But the government cares about you.
Yeah, here's a National Review piece that's slow to open.
Aww.
Thank God this is a podcast.
Their stuff is always slow to open because they've got all those pop-ups. It stinks. I don't know about you, but on my Chrome, at least, I can't just do a read-only version of an article like you can on your phone, which is a godsend.
Yeah. The
I love it.
United States of SWAT
Yeah,
by
who wrote
John
this?
Fund.
Oh, our buddy.
Military-style units from government agencies are wreaking havoc on nonviolent citizens. And it talks about like you said, let's see, the Bureau of Land Management. The Secret Service and the Bureau of Prisons.
Sure. Well, those
have them.
two kind of make sense.
Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, sure.
The Railroad Retirement Board.
What?
The Tennessee Valley Authority. The Office
those
of
things
Personal
still
Management. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. The Railroad Pension Board
I should probably start this from the beginning.
and the Tennessee Valley Project.
Regardless of how people feel about Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy's standoff with the Federal Bureau of Land Management over his cattle grazing rights, a lot of people were surprised to see TV images of an armed-to-the-teeth paramilitary wing of the BLM deployed around Bundy's ranch. They shouldn't have been. Dozens of federal agencies now have special weapons and tactics teams to further an expanding definition of their missions. It's not controversial to the Secret Service and the Bureau of Prisons to have them. But what about the Department of Agriculture, the Railroad Retirement Board, the Tennessee Valley Authority, the Office of Personnel Management, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service?
Oh, good God.
All of these have their own SWAT units and are part of a worrying trend towards the militarization of federal agencies, not to mention local police forces.
And this is an issue that we knew about because we kind of pay attention, but this is never raised on a national stage, ever.
Take the case of Kenneth Wright of Stockton, California, who was visited by a SWAT team from the U.S. Department of Education in June of 2011. Agents battered down the door of his home at 6 a.m., dragged him outside in his boxer shorts, and handcuffed him as they put his 3 children, ages 3, 7, and 11, in a police car for 2 hours while they searched his home. The raid was allegedly intended to uncover information on Wright's estranged wife, Michelle, who hadn't been living with him and was suspected of college financial aid fraud.
Jeez.
So we need to send a SWAT team in for that.
Yeah. It's sick. It's totally sick.
Well,
and this is yeah. Is there more?
The year before the raid on Wright, a SWAT team from the Food and Drug Administration raided the farm of Dan Algier of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. That's Amish country.
His crime was shipping unpasteurized milk across state lines to a cooperative of young women with children in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. You can't traffic in unpasteurized milk because the government cares about you and they think that that's dangerous.
Well, the raid forced Algiera, however you say his name, to close down his business.
Yep. And yet the left has half of this country, at least the ones that vote, convinced that the government cares about them.
Well, you probably really shouldn't be sending raw milk over state lines, Tracy.
It's exactly what your friends would say to you, and mine too. Well, we do think pasteurized milk might be like dangerous. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean,
then
nobody likes college financial aid fraud, Tracy.
Right.
We need to put a stop to it. A SWAT team at 6 a.m.
from the Department of Education. Who do they have that runs their SWAT? Like, do they outsource that or do they have in-house SWAT? That's what I want to know.
I got to believe it's in-house.
Which is stunning.
When does the government, if you have the Department of Education and you give them we'll give you 2 options. You can have your own SWAT team, or we could save money and budget for you to outsource the SWAT team to a private company. What do you think the Department of Education is going to choose?
They're going to say, well, we need a fast reaction squad, so we're going to need to keep it in-house.
Right.
We can't run the risk that we would need the SWAT team, and yet it would be indisposed if we were just contracting.
And then you know what happens? Once you get your SWAT team, you have to justify it in the budget. So then you raid poor schmucks like Kenneth Wright.
Yep.
In Stockton, California at 6 a.m. and drag him in his boxer shorts out into the driveway and handcuff him and put his 3 kids in a cop car for 2 hours.
Which, if you left your children in a car for 2 hours, Child Protective Services would be on you so quick. I'm surprised they don't have SWAT.
Well, that's probably coming.
We might just not have heard of it yet.
Unbelievable.
Stunning. And they're worried about Donald Trump being the president. I mean, that's what's truly amazing to me is how much awful stuff is going on constantly. But maybe if the levers of power are given over to him, then people will start paying attention and freaking out.
Yeah.
And that's the best case scenario, because we know if power goes to Hillary, this stuff is just going to keep on going on under the radar. It'll be dismissed out of hand. And that, we'll just carry along. Status quo.
If he becomes president of the United States and does something about political correctness, that would be a successful presidency.
Just keeping the Clinton, because this is her last chance, right?
Oh, yeah.
It has to be.
I mean,
They're
she can
not gonna let her
barely
do this again.
Look. Do we
I know,
see
Typhoid
her?
Mary.
Yeah. Do we see her walk long distances in public? For all we know, she's like FDR. They like wheel her around.
They built that special trade station under the Waldorf Astoria, cart her in and out. I don't know if that was specially built, but I remember they snuck him in and out of that. They would load his car onto the train. You know about this, right?
Oh, yeah. Do we have any idea at all if she can function, like she could 10, 15 years ago before the fall and she bumped her head? What happened there? She fell down some stairs or something?
No, I thought she just fell over in her office or something and hit her head off of a dresser or something like that, or a table.
For no good reason. She was standing up and she fell over.
I think so. I mean, that's what day drinking will do to you. And there's a lot of evidence that she drinks heavily. I mean, there are tons of pictures of it. And then if nobody's pulled out, and I don't know why not. And at one point, I think I made a compilation video. I'll have to look for it, of all of her dancing around the world.
Oh, yeah.
That was going on. That's not happening sober. That woman has no personality. Like, she's not the fun time gal that's like, hey, let's cut it up.
Right.
So there's alcohol involved, but there's also, she fell the other time, which nobody talks about, and I only know because I read HRC, and I can't remember who wrote that book, but she fell in the garage of the State Department, in the underground garage, and broke her elbow, I think. And this was right on the eve of some big international trip. I can't remember if it was to China or Russia or something like that, and she couldn't go. And then you've got jerk Kerry, which I love that Trump's bringing that up. That he fell off his bicycle. And he keeps being like, I promise I will never ride a bicycle. It's the best.
I'm telling you, though, she was the day of the West Virginia primary, she was speaking to a crowd in Kentucky. And she sounded like she had just come off a Old Crow and Pall Mall bender. I mean, she goes.
Well, it's a good looking Kentucky, right?
It's like Selma from The Simpsons is running for president.
But she was even charming in her cantankerousness,
Yeah,
you like those salty broads.
There's nothing about Hillary that's likable. Nothing.
No.
And she may be president of the United States.
Yeah.
At least when Trump is an asshole, sometimes he'll make you chuckle.
Oh, I laugh every time I watch him speak. I laugh. He's got incredible comedic timing.
That's true.
And he's just been decimating Elizabeth Warren. He's driven her absolutely insane just by doing nothing other than calling her goofy and tweeting about it over and over and over again. Like, what a goofball she is. And she is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good adjective for her. She's goofy. And she's a moron that they've propped up as some luminary.
Well, we've got Crazy Bernie. We got Goofy
Crooked Hillary.
Crooked Hillary and Goofy Elizabeth Warren.
And they tried to brand Trump. They wanted to affix to him a one-word nickname. So they came out with like Dangerous Donald. And like that, really? Did you guys war room that one? And how many PR people are involved in this nonsense?
That's what's so ridiculous is because they've got so much of Hollywood at their command, and they can never come up with any. You're telling me all these sycophants that love Elizabeth Warren in Hollywood, the comedians, nobody could listen. Let me help you out here, and just take over. Not necessarily take over a Twitter account, but see what Donald tweets at her and cut Elizabeth Warren's staff an email. say
But
hey.
they haven't even been effective. I mean, I saw a headline. I can't remember what Jon Stewart showed up at some event. I think it was like a USO event or something like that. And good on him. You know, he's been doing stuff for the troops for a while, and I'll give that to him. But he tried to make a cut on Donald Trump. And, you know, the left is just lost without him. They don't know what to do. They don't know who to write headlines about. XYZ destroyed so-and-so Republican. So that they're lost. And he popped up and they were like, oh, he eviscerated Trump. And I read it, and there's no way to put him down that's effective. Like, he's so clownish that you can't make me laugh about making fun of him.
Yeah.
There's really nowhere to go with it. So it's put them in such a weird position, but like coming out, oh, he's dangerous Donald. That sounds cool to me.
I'd rather be called dangerous than goofy.
Or crooked. Yeah, there's no way to do this. So I do think that we're going to see some interesting dance moves on Hillary's part, trying to get out of it, having to do a debate. But she's also got to beat the old man first.
Oh, she's going to beat the old man. That's the fix is in.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, what did I think I saw the other night on Fox Business that he has to win 88% of the delegates going forward.
I thought it was something around 60, but yeah, it's a hurdle that can't not be overcome. And he'd have to sway a huge number of the superdelegates that have already committed to her. But that doesn't mean he's going to go quietly or nicely. And this nonsense about him getting put on the ticket as a VP is laughable. Just like Elizabeth Warren is not going to be Hillary's VP either. That brings nothing to the ticket whatsoever. They don't need Massachusetts.
It brings the Bernie supporters.
Right, but the problem that they're having demographically is with white men.
Yes, and that only makes it worse.
Yeah, you can't have two broads. And then so I saw them talking about Sheldon. Was it Sheldon Whitehouse? No. What's the senator from Sheldon Brown from Ohio? So they think they're playing that game because those Quinnipiac polls that came out, and she's virtually tied with Trump in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida.
I'm really starting to think that Trump could bring the Rust Belt into play.
Oh, you live there, right?
Yeah.
And you work with guys that are good old Union Democrats.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, my buddies that I'm friends with on Facebook from back in my movie days that are Teamster drivers love him. They just think he's the best thing that's ever happened. Quoting him, smashing liberals on their page, don't care. Love it. So I think he puts things in play that nobody's expecting. This is totally up in the air, unpredictable, and it's going to be amazing.
And that's what's going to make these conventions all the more interesting. Mm-hmm. Because I still, in the back of my mind, am thinking that the Democrats are going to do something to, get the, what was the old vaudevillian thing when someone's putting out an awful act on stage, they bring the cane out and they pull the person.
Yeah, get the hook.
Yeah, get the hook.
Yeah, they're bring back the gong.
Yeah. And then Joe Biden will come swooping in. I mean, it was very interesting to see. Yes, I think it was yesterday. Biden said that he would have picked Elizabeth Warren if he had been running for president. I mean, why even throw that out there?
Oh, sure.
Is it a trial balloon? Or is it just someone who can't stand the fact that he isn't getting any attention?
No, I think that he's looking at this and being like, oh, man. I hope James Comey lays the hammer down on her.
Can you imagine a debate between Trump and Joe Biden?
Oh, my God. I would have to buy adult diapers. Because I really do think that I would pee my pants. And I want to be watching these things in public if they go down.
Yeah.
I'm telling movie theaters are going to be live streaming the debates if they're smart.
I wish they would do them on the weekend. They never.
Well, maybe they will. They did all the Democrat ones in the primary pretty much on a weekend because they were trying to bury them.
Yeah, they were trying to bury them.
Well, they're going to put them. I mean, you have to keep in mind like the fall TV schedules and all this stuff. And it's like October, I think, is sweeps month. when they really care about ratings,
Yeah.
when these are going on. So they'll try to put them in prime time, and you have football starting already then. So at that point, don't you have Thursday night football and Monday night football and Sunday night football?
Yep.
And Saturday night is dominated by college
football. So it's going to be like a Tuesday.
Maybe you'll get a Friday night.
Oh, it'd be great.
They're going to want the maximum audience.
It would be great to have a tweet up where we get, 40 or 50 people just together at a bar and watch the debates. I think it would be fun
sure.
With people that we still like.
Good luck.
Well, hell. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've talked enough already.
Yeah. All right. Ashe Schow from the Washington Examiner and New York Observer's up next.
Enough already!
Ashe Schow is here from the Washington Examiner and New York Observer. Ashe.
Hey.
Ashe.
That's
You didn't really
say
set
hello.
me up to say anything. You're just Ashes here.
And then I said
Like,
Ashe.
okay, yeah, yes, I am here. I am here. Yes, I am. Like, was waiting for that. How are you doing? Or welcome to the show, or something like that.
How are you doing, Ashe? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm doing wonderful.
That's fantastic. Hey, tell us a little bit about what's going on at Harvard. Apparently, there's a dust-up with some women there.
Yeah, so, how Ivy League women are these days, where they're apparently living amongst the most oppressed women in the entire country, and they're just living in a hotbed of rape culture and, far from being at one of the most privileged and safe places in the entire country. They're basically in the third world where they are. And so Harvard, in order to protect women, decides to disband all male groups. They're called final clubs. And because they use gender neutral language, and because things like Title IX say that you can't, if you do something for men, you have to do something for women, and that until recently really hasn't worked the other way. Women have gotten away with, all kinds of, women's studies, for instance, where you definitely will never have a men's studies degree, right? And granted, that's pointless because women's studies degrees are, worthless anyway. And, your main job could be a barista at Starbucks. So,
Are you saying you won't be a billionaire
teaching,
with a women's studies degree?
No, unless you marry a wealthy man, but marriage is kind of frowned upon by some of these people, so it's kind of difficult. Anyway, so they banned the final clubs, but in doing so, that also ended up banning the female only final clubs, and of course women were upset about that because it's all fun and games, equality is all great until it affects me. Until the women actually get a taste of it. So they didn't like that. So they started protesting. When the whole thing is based off of like this self-reported survey claiming that fraternities and all male groups have this sexual entitlement, and they're just basically just all rapists, looking to rape women, looking to treat women poorly. And so if we disband them, then these alleged monsters won't be monsters anymore. I guess that's the thinking. So if that's their thinking, and this is all to protect women, then the thinking should also go that because the survey found that the female-only groups were being victimized at a higher rate, then disbanding them should create fewer victims. But of course, you can't ever say that, such a thing. We're doing this to protect women. We can only do things to protect women when it involves punishing men. That is the view on college campuses like Harvard.
Well, two things come up to me that, obviously this is all logically inconsistent. But when I was reading this, I was thinking, okay, so according to the self-reporting survey, fraternity houses are just rape dens. So why don't we just, if that's true, just keep them open and then all women know not to go there?
Right. That was, so when I was in college, I had this idea because of the media, because of movies, because of things like this, that claimed that you were going to be raped if you walked into a fraternity. So guess where I never set foot? I never went to a fraternity. So do these women just not hear these things or think, oh, it's just not going to happen to me? Because would you not take any steps to protect yourself? Like, I mean, I view now that that was a discriminatory thing for me to think, that fraternities are just full of rapists.
Sure.
But that is what women are being taught. So the fact that women are still going to these fraternities just boggles my mind, if they're allegedly these hotbeds of rape.
And the other thing that I thought, aside from like, oh, if we can quarantine them in a frat house, maybe that's a good answer to this. But the other thing is, if the women, and what you're talking about is also, so when it applies to the women, and we're talking like sororities and other things like that, and those girls are more likely to be victimized, why aren't their sisters watching out for them? What's up? Where's the sisterhood?
Right. That's the other thing. And the deal is what are we talking about when we're talking about rape and sexual assault? It's now everything from getting drunk and hooking up with someone to an actual rape. So you don't usually, if somebody is, seems to be macking it with a guy, you don't usually step in and be like, hey, you need to stop that. But then the next morning she might regret it and claim rape. And that's what's happening. So that's why you're not really stopping. The White House has this whole "it's on us" campaign, and that you need to stop this stuff. But most people are going to see two people making out at a party and be like, get it, girl, or, get it, guy, like, go ahead, because they're two drunk people about maybe hooking up or looking like they're having a good time. There's no distress there. We're now being told that you need to step in because what's really happening is that woman's being sexually assaulted. Doesn't matter how into it she seems. She's being sexually assaulted because she's a woman and women can't consent.
Right. It's so mind-numbingly stupid. And now they're trying to take this kind of nonsense and push it on all of us, right? That's what the Rifted American Law Institute is all about.
Last year, the American Law Institute, it's actually been several years going. They've been writing this draft model penal code, and their previous model penal code was adopted in I think it was 26 states. So they have a lot of influence, and they're trying to update that as far as sex crimes. And basically these affirmative consent policies that you and I both know are stupid because it's not how sex works, and you would be criminalizing every sexually active adult or person in America overnight because there's these stringent rules for this means consent and this does not mean consent. And it doesn't matter that such a thing can mean consent sometimes. Under the law, it doesn't mean consent and you're a rapist. So they're trying to make that the law of the land. And I wrote about this last year. I went to their annual meeting and heard so many of their members stand up saying, this is ridiculous. You can't do this. You could be turning everybody into a criminal. Millions upon millions of people into criminals overnight. Are you really going to do this? And not only just criminals, but felons. Like, felons for having consensual sex, because under this law, the natural way of having consensual sex is no longer consensual sex. The only way you can have consensual sex is if you basically do a question and answer session throughout the entire activity, and you film it so that you can prove later that that is actually what occurred.
Right,
so
or you bring in a notary public.
Right,
in the middle
exactly.
Of it.
You have a witness, that a third-party unbiased witness that can confirm this is how everything went down. But so this year they're back, and the group is supposed to vote on it, and they claim that they've made all these changes and they've removed affirmative consent language. But what they've really done is just call it by another name. They're now saying, consensual, like, willingness or communicated willingness, which is basically just, a synonym for affirmative consent, because communicated willingness is just the same as what affirmative consent said. And there's a whole bunch of other issues, like they've now increased penalties. So they brought in the definition of what constitutes a sex crime, but it was mostly misdemeanors. Now those misdemeanors are felonies. So they're now just trying to make everybody a felon overnight who doesn't adhere to their ridiculous rules. And even beyond that, it shifts the burden of proof onto the accused. So if an accuser, or basically the prosecution, just has to go up and say, what is it? Yeah, there was a nice quote from the article. The prosecution only has to get up and say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, under the state's definition, it does not matter whether the complainant actually was willing. It is undisputed that the sex act occurred, and there is no evidence in the record that the complainant communicated willingness. There is no consent if the complainant has not communicated willingness. You must convict if you find that the defendant recklessly disregarded that absence of consent. So basically, the prosecution just has to say, well, they don't have any evidence, this is what the law is, and the law says that they had to communicate willingness. There's no evidence that they did so, therefore, he's guilty. And then the accused has to then have an affirmative defense proving a negative, proving that he did obtain such communicated willingness. He has to have evidence of that communicated willingness. Otherwise, you're going to jail for a minimum of 5 years.
Ugh. And then you're a registered sex offender forever then additionally.
Exactly. All of this for what was likely consensual sex but not videotaped and proven, and that somebody later regrets or wants to hang a noose around this guy's head because it was a bad breakup or he started dating somebody else or for whatever reason.
Wow. Ashe, you wrote at the New York Observer about Hillary and the woman card. Apparently she's going to continue to wear this out on every stump speech. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote, I wanted to challenge her to, go one speech without mentioning she's a woman or that she's running to be the first female president or turning a non-gendered issue like criminal justice reform, or which is actually more of a men's issue since there are more men in prison, into a women's issue, as if women prisoners are uniquely victims because while they're in jail, they can't see their children. And that somehow we need to give women with children shorter sentences or just not convict them of crimes. So that basically mothers should be allowed to do whatever they want because, God forbid, they murder somebody and miss their child's birthday. So, things like that. Yeah, things like that. I challenged her. Obviously, she's not going to do that. The article posted on Wednesday, I believe, and just hours after it posted, she had a tweet out about the gender wage gap, which every study shows is due to the different choices that men and women make in their careers and not conclusively linked to discrimination. So she was tweeting about that. So obviously she's not going to take the challenge. And why would she? This is what her campaign is built on. This is what her campaign has always been built on. She was always planning to play the gender card. This is Obama's team played the race card back in 2008. It wasn't Obama that played it, but Hillary Clinton, not as astute.
No, and speaking of that ridiculous wage gap myth, I saw you took Fox to task for publishing yet another video pushing false bullcrap to bolster this argument so Hillary can run around with a straight face repeating it.
Right. Well, I love that they used Hope Solo from the U.S. women's soccer team. Here's a woman who was, arrested for domestic violence last year. And the charges were dropped from the family, but the case is still open. And so had this been a man,
sure,
in a similar situation, Fox would never put him on camera because he's a monster. He's an abuser. He is violent, and he should be branded that way for life. But it's Hope Solo. She's a woman, so and they can use her to make a point. So they're going to. And I also found it funny that in the beginning of this video, if you watch it, Elizabeth Plank, who is the woman who's the main woman in the video, right? Is talking about the gender wage gap. She's sitting at a table. Suddenly she gets hit in the face with a soccer ball and is like, oh my God, are you Hope Solo? And then Hope Solo starts talking to her about the gender wage gap, which I found hilarious because in that context, they don't know each other. So apparently Hope Solo's going around in this universe hitting random people in the head with a soccer ball on the street.
And you're saying that she has a domestic violence charge hanging over her head.
Right. And this is how you portray her, as a violent person who attacks random strangers on the street with soccer balls. That's just, thanks, Vox. That is great for her image. But anyway, they start talking about the wage gap, and they use the women's soccer team in order to prove that, I don't know, female office workers in America are underpaid, when sports payment does not work like typical office workers. I mean, a lot of it has to do on the revenue that is brought in, whereas most office workers don't really bring in their own personal revenue that the company can monetize in such a way, you know?
Sure.
So on its face, it's ridiculous, but also Vox leaves out some really important context when it tries to claim that if the women's soccer team loses every single game, they earn $72,000. But if the men's soccer team loses every single game, they will earn $100,000. They leave out the fact that because women's soccer is a more fledgling organization, they are salaried employees of the U.S. Soccer Federation. So that $72,000 is a salary, and they also receive benefits like health insurance. The men's team are not salaried, they're paid per game, and they do not have those benefits. So as we all know, when benefits are factored into a salary, like your salary goes down, but the benefits package itself would increase your salary, if you see what I'm saying.
Sure.
So the men's team may lose every game and earn $100,000, but they have to buy their own health insurance, which is, you know, super expensive and reduces their salary.
And if they're independent contractors, which is what it seems like you're describing, then they're also having to pay their Medicare tax, Social Security taxes, both halves of it. So that's 15% additionally. So they're probably making out with less than $72,000 at the end of the year.
Right, exactly. And if they win games, then women earn far less than men. But again, you got to talk about the interest and revenue that is coming in. I mean, the Men's World Cup in 2014 brought in $4.5 billion to FIFA. And from the numbers I can find, the Women's World Cup brought in the millions, not even close. And in the viewership, the men's soccer team brings in, on average, 2 to 3 times the viewership of women's soccer. Now, the women's soccer team who are suing for wage discrimination only want to focus on the World Cup and how that shattered viewer records. But the reason that it did was because America was in a championship, all right? If the men's team was in a championship, those numbers would have been shattered even further, because you can look at things like the Olympics. Every year you have, when the Olympics come around, every 2 years when the Olympics come around, you have the same number of viewerships as the Women's World Cup. But that doesn't mean that in the off years, people care about swimming and gymnastics. It's a very specific patriotic thing that is occurring. But of course, the women who are suing, they just want to ignore that, and they want to look at this year compared to the men. And I mean, you want to say, yeah, the women do better in the World Cup than the men's team. There's fewer teams in the Women's Cup, and they've been around for a short amount of time. And let's be honest, it's not the same game. The reason people like men's sports is because men are bigger, stronger, faster, and they play the game more aggressively. So women are every bit as great athletes in their own regard, but it is a different game.
It's just stunning how much they have to throw out the window to get to where they want to be to prove their point. I mean, this reminds me so much of the fight that came about when the Sony hack leaks came out, and it was like, oh my God, Jennifer Lawrence didn't get paid as much as Bradley Cooper and who was a Christian Bale. You know, it was poor Amy Adams. And then if you sit down and do the actual math for the time she spent on screen, Jennifer Lawrence made per hour more than anybody else on that movie. Amy Adams was the one that got stiffed in the end. But these people also have agents, just like these soccer players are part of a union that's supposed to negotiate on their behalf. So it's just like, let's do numbers.
The other thing is that they didn't have the same screen time. They weren't the same level actors. They weren't like going for best actor. They were supporting roles. And you also looked at the uproar over finding out that Jennifer Lawrence was the highest paid female actress in Hollywood last year, but she made $30 million less than Robert Downey Jr., who was the highest paid male actor and highest paid actor. Jennifer Lawrence was the second highest paid actor, male or female, by, I think it was like, what, 10 million? But they just completely ignored the fact that she's been around for half a decade, and Robert Downey Jr. has been around for like 40 goddamn years.
Right.
Like,
right.
think the years, like, they're not, he wasn't brand new. Like, it's Robert Downey Jr. He also has his own production company. She's
Sure.
just acting. What a lot of these guys are doing is having their own production companies. You see people like James Franco and Seth Rogen have their own production companies. You see a lot of actors that do that. I'm not seeing a lot of female actors do the same thing. So that also helps bring in revenue, especially with Robert Downey Jr. when you can cast yourself in your own movie.
Sure, and he's probably the
Jon Favreau
executive
does this as well.
producer. He's probably the executive producer
exactly.
on what, the Iron Man movie or whatever, that's guaranteed to bank at least 200 million at the box office. Yeah, if she had been an executive producer, if she had been an executive producer on the Hunger Games, which she probably could have negotiated for the third film, she would have blown everybody out of the water. So this goes back to what your fundamental point is. This is about the choices that women make, and one of those being not standing up for yourself. And she even said that eventually when she got, confronted about this. Like, I should have stood up for myself, but I didn't want to be that girl. Of course, it's somebody else's fault. But she didn't want to be that pushy, bossy woman. And she's like, what? Really? Like, you are the face of the Hunger Games. You could renegotiate your contract or whatever you want because you have the most leverage of anybody in that room.
Exactly. I mean, that's what this whole thing is. And you know what? I didn't really know that all these actors had their own production companies. That's kind of something you learn. And she's still young. She's like, what, 26? Because it's kind of something you learn as you've been in the business longer. And yeah, she's making some of the best movies out there. But she's also still a young actress who's got an agent who's probably taking advantage of her because she's young and naive. And these are things that you learn. When Robert Downey Jr. was younger, he was probably taken advantage of by his agent because he was young and naive.
And he was also on drugs.
That too.
Yeah, so there's that.
They actually paid him in his salary. They paid him in coke. So at least
probably
for 2
would have
movies.
said thanks.
He would have probably accepted that too.
Yeah. No, I don't feel any sympathy for these people that are the victims of their own choices.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, so you found out this is happening. All right, well, it's a really easy fix. And it's just like using these examples that are so easily debunked as discrimination examples to push this belief that women in this country are just so oppressed and discriminated against. It's like, why do modern feminists in this country want to be so oppressed? Like, it's like they want it. They want it to be true. And I don't know why you want something so terrible to be true.
Well, it's because they need something to fight against. I mean, they've achieved, as far as legal equality goes, everything we can get, right? And now they're just greedy. And they need to have a reason to continue existing.
Right. They wouldn't have jobs or media attention or anything if they didn't find sexism in everything and if sexism wasn't a liar. And
Right. Well, you even cited that study in there that produced, that found, what was it, that the wage gap when you control for a whole bunch of things shrinks down to like 3 or 4 cents, but it was buried in that think tank or whatever.
The American Association of University Women included in like a footnote that, like, oh, when you control for the different occupations and majors that women have, the wage gap shrinks to 6 or 7 cents. And they claim that, oh, well, because we can't control for anything else, that means it's discrimination. That's where discrimination. They can't prove it's discrimination. They've admitted that, but they're going to say it's discrimination because that's what they want it to be. But if you look at their definitions or their categories of job that they were comparing it to, it was not apples to apples. It was definitely apples to oranges. They had one category that was like other occupations that just included all these things they couldn't think of another place for. So it included lawyers, which is a male-dominated career, to like librarians, which is a female-dominated career. And they're just like, look at the pay gap. Like, of course you're going to find a pay gap between completely different careers.
No, it's got to be discrimination. But
Yeah,
they've
exactly.
been really successful at this. We've known that this wage gap myth is a lie for years now, and yet it still continues to come up again and again and again.
Right,
And I don't know how to
because
kill it.
just, I know, it frustrates me every time somebody comes up with something. It's like they try to put a new spin on it, right? So they say, oh, well, when women move into careers that were dominated by men, the pay goes down. And then you have to ignore things. And Vox did this, like changing society and the changing skills. So the example that they used for Vox was ticket agent. They don't explain what ticket agent. Doesn't mean like, was it the movie ticket taker? Is it the person at the flight desk? Like what, which ticket agent are you talking about? But it really doesn't matter, because if you look at the career, the ticket agent, all right, we don't value it as a society, not because women went into it, but because it doesn't require skill.
Sure.
If you're seriously like, okay, does it take as much education to be a ticket taker as it takes to be an engineer? No. So what is an alternate theory, which of course they want to ignore because their only theory is that it's sexism everywhere. An alternate theory is that there were better jobs to go to and men went to that and women just didn't catch up. Or women who wanted these jobs that didn't require much skills and didn't require long hours were more attractive to women who wanted more flexibility in their work.
All of this makes complete sense to me and you, and maybe we can kill this thing once and for all someday.
No, because you try to explain to somebody who's a hardcore believer that sexism is everywhere, and they refuse. They call you a gender traitor. They hurl insults. They call you a moron. You just can't see this, and it's a lot of times it's the older women, and it's like, you probably did experience sexism back in the day. It's just doesn't exist the same way. Like, we're not living in the 60s and 70s anymore. Things are different now.
Check out Ashe's work over at the New York Observer and the Washington Examiner, and follow her on Twitter at Ashe Schow. We'll talk to you next week, Ashe. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Our thanks go out to Gavin McInnes and Ashe Schow. That's it for this week. Remember, you can always catch the Enough Already podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, the TuneIn app, Stitcher. I think that's it. Also, check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/Enough Already Podcast, and the website, EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com. Music for the podcast is provided courtesy of YoPaulyMusic.com. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.